And once we pop up here, I'll mute my window and we should be good to go. There we go. Beauty. All right. We look like we are live, good sir. So,
sweet.
Let me make sure I've got the chat popped out so I can address that as we go. Guys, if you're here watching, say hello in the chat so we can give proper shout outs to those of you joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate it. We got a lot to discuss, Vin and I, actually. So
I know, we got so much going on. Doing so many things.
You especially, dude. You're the king of fingers in pies.
Okay, good. I'm finally getting into the chat.
There you go.
Bam, all logged in. Look
Yeah.
at
There you go. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Vin. Hey, Cecil says Flashtainment. What's going on, Flashtainment? Love that name.
Flash. That's Maurice.
Jonathan Nichols, Movie
oh,
Mike in the
Jonathan.
chat, Dorian Cerna, Liam Major, and earlier on we had Sophia Isabel. She'll probably drop by again. Heavy Metal Beer Club in the chat. These fuckers follow me everywhere.
Who are these guys? The Heavy Metal
Heavy Metal Beer Club. They're just a couple
cool.
of really awesome people that go to all the Phoenix conventions, and when they were at Mad Monster, you probably saw them at some point, and you just might not have realized it was them. But all throughout Mad Monster, like 8 times a day, we would just be walking around and just bumping into each other. And so it just became a running gag that these fuckers were just following me around all weekend long. It's like, you know, I love my fans, but just give it a rest, you know? No, I'm just kidding. Vin, you got to deal with that more than a lot of people, because so when you came to Mad Monster, and this stream is just going to be a little bit of a stream of consciousness. I do have questions that I will circle back to, but I haven't had Vin on just for a conversation for a while, so it's going to be a little bit of that. So, like, what's it like when because you at Mad Monster, you draw your own crowd. You were there next to Ron Sloan and Miko at Mad Monster, and yet you still had a ton of people coming up and talk to you.
Well, I have a new job now.
Oh, yeah?
Miko Hughes impersonator. Because when we sit next to each other, everybody just thinks that like I'm just a big version of him. It's pretty funny.
It is funny because so many times you've been confused by him or for him rather, and it's like there's a big difference.
It's definitely the beard and the mustache. It's like I think the facial hair really worked for the both of us in that regard.
Do me a favor, say boys have penis, girls have a vagina in your most kid-like voice.
Yeah. Boys have penis, girls have vagina.
I see it now. I see it.
There it is. All right, I'm gonna start. I told Miko, I was like, hey, if he ever wants to take a long bathroom break, I'll sit in and I'll sign for him. I have no problem sitting in.
Miko's cool enough that he might be like, yeah, okay, let's try it.
I know, right? But I don't know. I think that it's fun. It's nice to get, I think if anything, it's just I've been traveling around the country a lot and I've been meeting a lot of people. And a lot of the times it's recognizing familiar faces, people who have come to Never Hike Alone screening before, or I've seen them at, other cons. I see a lot of people at like a Days of the Dead or a Mad Monster, a Horror Hound, other film festivals, just filmmakers. And I think just sort of like the online community too, a lot of people will recognize me from that just because we've communicated or, backers. I mean, backers are all over the country too, which is really cool. Thousands of backers back your campaign. You end up in some, whether it's in Arizona or I'm in Indiana or if I'm in Georgia or something, there's somebody who's, hey, I backed your campaign and I've been following you all this time. So it's really cool to finally connect with the people who make it possible for me to do what I get to do, because everything that we've done has been fan funded. We haven't gone out and done the pitch to big studios. We went out to fans directly, and we're able to raise money to create our productions. So it's definitely a different way of doing it, but I think it's cool because it just connects people with the material that they're supporting even more.
Yeah, it becomes one of those things where you give fans access that they don't otherwise have. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously they go to these conventions to meet the stars and everything like that, but the fact that you're there and now, and the fact that Dave McRae was there, he was getting a lot of people coming up, and even I was getting a few people, even though the film hadn't come out yet. That might be a little different going forward, but even if not, it was great to just see the fact that people were just excited to be able to talk to people that, to them, right, you've made the transition, right? You've moved from fan to filmmaker. even though, you know, in our eyes, right, it's like not quite yet, but
Yeah.
you know, but essentially, you, especially now after
When it pays the
two.
bills. I mean, there's two sides to that coin. I mean, obviously, it would be nice if it paid the bills, but I think that like once you finish a film, you're a filmmaker, and you know, for
Does it
better or
have to be
worse.
full length, or can it be a short
No,
film?
I mean, if you've done a 5 minute short, if you've made a 30-second joke, if you've done a 5 second thing, if you have made pictures move, you are a moving picture director. And, you know, the goal is, I don't think it's like, you know, length is sort of just it's a format. Length isn't, you know, a decree. I mean, there are 3 hour movies, there are 20-minute short films, and they, you know, they entertain people in, you know, thousands of different ways. I think what's, you know, most important is you just tell your story, and that with the time that you have, you make the most of it. And so if you only have 5 minutes, make the most of that 5 minutes. If you got enough to make 20, make the most of that 20. And if you got enough to make a full-length feature film, well, you know, I bet you didn't get there just doing that right away. You probably did a 5, a 20, a 30, and then you made a big one. It takes a long time. I think that for me, I'm just a student of the game. I'm always got my head down in some type of, you know, book or something about film, or just watching film, or just studying a TV show, not just like watching it for the story content, but seeing how they like built the shot structure, or did the production design, or like how do they deal with this issue, or like that's how they you know, how did they achieve that effect. You know, I'm always like kind of looking at that, because those are things that I want to be able to do on my sets, and I think it's just sort of, I think that passion for is what fuels me. And they see, and I think that, you know, for that standpoint, that does make me a filmmaker. It may not pay my bills, and I'll be living in a big fancy house, or, you know, shoulder to shoulder with Kevin Feige directing the next, you know, Ant-Man 8. But like, hey, you know, I think at the same time, it's nice to create something that has found an audience. I think that connecting with other fans was really important, because I was a big Friday the 13th fan. So to come out of it as a fan and show something to other fans to say, I think it could be like this, and to have them reciprocate with, you know, showing up to events, buying Blu-rays, watching it on YouTube, meeting me at conventions. It's a really cool feeling, you know, because you do it and you get to a point, and I'm sure you got to the point on Dylan's, you're like, is anyone going to like this? You never know, you know, you just get to that point where you're like, you've done it enough, you've watched it a million times, so now it's like everything, like the first time you watched it, it was in shambles because it was a first cut,
Right.
you know what I mean, and you had to pinch and pull and get it into shape in order to make it presentable to an audience, to make sure it was something that you wanted them to enjoy, that's your creation. So by the time you get there, you just know where all the bodies are buried, and so that's all you see. So it's, you know, I think the gratification of being able to share it with fans, and, you know, have them watch it and have their first experience with it without having to see all like the warts that come with kind of doing that type of stuff, to make a film. But I don't know, it's just
Quiet, you. Sorry.
yeah, right.
Sorry.
Who's talking during the shot?
Yeah,
What the hell?
fucking,
Who's
God
talking
damn
during
it.
the set? No, but I think it's, you know, I think that at the end of the day, you know, hopefully one day you can strive to that. But if you're going out there and you're getting your friends together and you're organizing people and you're bringing in actors and you're doing those things, I mean, you're a filmmaker. Even if it's just your friends on the weekend and you guys are using your iPhone, you're still a filmmaker.
Yep.
But, you know, I think we all want to, you know, if we're serious about it, that we want to go and do bigger and better things.
Nope, that's 100% true. So okay, let me jump back to the chat real quick. Joey Lehman says you guys did a great job on this, truly inspiring. Davey Deathray in the chat. What up, Davey Deathray? Check out his interview with both Vin and I from the Gathering of Ghouls
Yes.
in Mesa, and
I still have my vendor badge hanging from my my rearview mirror. I love it. I don't know. I haven't got a badge in a while, so it's kind of nice.
that was a lot of fun. I mean, again, both of the screenings have gone very well, despite how dark they were. And by the way, if we do end up facing another screening in a bigger place, according to what you and I are working with behind the scenes, I think it might be worth outputting a slightly lighter version just to make sure we're covered either way. You know what I mean?
All right, well, we'll see. I'm excited about the fact that we're getting more opportunities to screen the film. I think people are going to be able to see it in a theater. I think it's doing the right. We won't get too into details, but it's kind of one of these things. Like, this is what these fan films are built for. They're a great addendum to other things that are happening.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'm looking forward to. I can't announce it yet. I almost did. But yeah, we're going to be screening on October 13th. We have a lot of screenings going out there. The one I can talk about is Halloween-a-Palooza.
Oh, nice.
That's going to be in Iowa. It's going to be, and Tom Matthews is going to be there. So Tom Matthews is going to be hosting that on Friday the 13th. They're doing the Ghost Cut, and then on Saturday the 14th, they're showing Never Hike Alone 2. Tom's going to be there for both screenings. I know he's going to be jacked up. He's been super excited about it coming out. We have a few other screenings around the country. There's another one in Salina, Kansas, that we'll be announcing pretty soon. 13 Gallows Lane is hosting us at Track Cinema in Rochester, New York again. Let me see who else. And then I don't know if anybody wants to hint. There's one other one that I'm going to be at that's going to be really high up in the mountains. That I'm looking forward to going back and sort of like going back to where it all began, really.
Well, I have submitted the film to our film. So we're talking Never Hike Alone 2, right? Just now, just so everyone knows. That was for all Never Hike Alone 2. But Dylan's New Nightmare has now been submitted to, I think, 7 different festivals.
Great.
And one of them, it's the High Mountains. And if it gets accepted, I might have to figure out.
Final day. Today's the final day.
So I'll find out. Okay. Yeah. So if that happens, though, I might have to come out and figure out, like, that'll be pretty fucking cool, because you'll have 2 films there if that's the case.
That would be pretty cool. I've never done that before.
And then I would love, I don't know what I would need to do, but maybe you could help me figure it out.
Talk to me about something. Yeah. Here, actually, I'm gonna write that down. Literally, this has been me. Okay, so Vin in post-production, it's just list after list after list that I'm just like, every day I'm like, all right, new things to do, blah blah blah, and I just sit here and I just cross stuff off, and I gotta write that screen.
Well, and then if the special screening that we have been possibly in talks about behind the scenes for Dylan's, if that happens, I would imagine you would want to try and make sure you were there for that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that, and even Dave McRae said that if he can, he would drop everything and come out for that screening as well.
Yeah, he's definitely come out.
So yeah, if that happens, I'm very excited. I sent a follow-up email about it today. But yeah, there's some cool things behind the scenes with Dylan's New Nightmare. We might be breaking a little bit of ground with it as far as where it's going, or possibly going, again, without spoiling anything and without getting ahead of ourselves. But we're very excited about, some of the responses that we've gotten. And actually that kind of leads me back to the questions. I have one question before I get to this specifically for you, but so just for everyone that wasn't aware, the link between Vin and I, might as well just go through it, right? Because when I first had you on for the interview, I didn't really talk about the link as much as just interview you about your horror history and all that stuff. So I first started hanging out with you because we reviewed Never Hike Alone on the channel back in 2017, and it so happened that we met at Mad Monster, Arizona, that same year after we had done the review. And you just happened to need a place to crash that year, or at least that night. And so you came back and crashed at my place, and like that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
I misjudged the drive from Flagstaff and how tired I would be at the end of the day. That was my first ever Mad Monster. I was down there to see Tom. Tom said, "Hey, I'm going to be there," and I knew you were going to be there, and other people. So like again, it was one of those things like. I remember when all the way back in Horror Show came out, or not Horror Show came out. I remember when Horror Show was reviewing Never Hike Alone when it first came out, and you guys were keeping an eye on it, and then you did your review, and I won you over, and I was like, cool, I get to sit and talk to everybody. We can kind of talk about it, and I can tell them the experience about making this movie and a little bit more about what into it. And it was just like, it was like the experience that I had in a lot of different places. I was meeting people who had, a similar love for film, who love to talk about it, who like to just sit down and just jab about nerdy stuff and go over it. Yeah, I think Tom was down at Mad Monster. He was promoting the game. And I was doing like a little Never Hike Alone promotion where I was still trying to push it in new territories and things like that, with fans on the ground. And he had actually mentioned it during the panel, and then we had hung out afterwards. And I remember we went back to your place and we were just like, I was just pitching stories and we were coming up with ideas, and it was just, that's how friendships are sort of made, I guess.
Yeah, especially in the film industry, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah, and then after that, we just kept in touch. And anytime I was in town, I mean, you came up and you helped out on the Disappear music video. You were, I believe, an associate or co-producer on Never Hike in the Snow. You actually helped us big time in Flagstaff by bringing an RV out for us to work out of.
Which almost killed me on the way back to Arizona, or on the way back to Phoenix, by the way. I popped it blew a tire on the way down the mountains from Flagstaff, and if it had popped about 30 minutes prior, I absolutely would have gone careening off the highway down into the freaking ravines and
Must
shit.
be like a rite of passage to be on a Never Hike Alone project, because I think that just happens to all of us at this point. It's like oh man, it's bad for our health to be on these shows.
But if you can make it through, it just means you're strong.
Yeah, and somewhere in between there,
it was the next year, I believe,
yeah,
right?
Because the following year, right?
Because I think you did Never Hike Alone. When did that release? In 2017.
2017, October, Friday the 13th.
October. So yeah, Mad Monster Arizona would have been summer of 2018, and so you would have been there, around that time. So that would have been when you crashed. So 2019 was when I had already talked to Miko in February at Mad Monster, North Carolina. And so you were coming back to actually be there for Never Hike Alone to sell your Blu-rays in 2019. And it was funny because the whole reason, it's so crazy, it's so clear in my head, and it's, obviously because it changed my life in a multitude of different ways. All good, by the way. But so I was in contact with you and I was like, do you have a place to stay this time, or do you need to crash again? And you're like, no, I got a hotel this time. And so I was like, okay, cool. And you're like, yeah, when you guys come out, why don't you stop by the hotel room on that Friday or whatever. It was maybe the Thursday you came in beforehand, whatever it was, come by and we'll chat. And so I went to your hotel room, and that's when I presented you the idea of Never Hike Alone Never Hike Alone, fucking Dylan's New Nightmare, and the script. I had the script.
I do that all the time. I'm just like confusing names.
Yeah, exactly. Like, remember when I wrote Never Hike Alone? No, but I had the script in hand for Dylan's New Nightmare, and you were down to read it. And actually, I think by that point you might have even read it, and because I might have sent it to you electronically. Because
I think you just literally pitched it to me, and I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that might have been the case. And I was like, are you okay with going with me to take the script to Miko and bringing a copy of Never Hike Alone so he can see the quality that we're talking about? And you're like, yeah, we could do that. And so it was just a matter of time, or a matter of me finding the right time to do that. And that was Friday of Mad Monster 2019. And then he read it like that day and told us that night that he was interested. And that's what kind of set things off. So that's how Vin and I started hanging out. I think it was, did you shoot Disappear after summer of 2019?
I think, yeah, because
I think so too.
We shot it in August of 2019 and released it that winter as a promotion for Never Hike in the Snow.
Yeah, so you had me and Dave out to do the Disappear BTS, which was a lot of fun because we got to see, we filmed the whole you guys in the water throwing the frisbee back and forth and everything. And then we made an hour and a half long behind the scenes special for a 3-minute music video. But we love that, and it came out great. Like, honestly, we were getting compliments like, that's one of the best horror show episodes you've ever made, and so that's what helped our relationship along, and that's where I met Nora, and that's where we kind of became somewhat of a unit, at least on the Dylan's New Nightmare side of things.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the beauty of film. I mean, if the web of destruction there really is the fact that like doing Never Hike Alone introduced me to Deb Voorhees. Andrew and I did her podcast.
Oh,
We both
Kyle's in the chat. What up, Kyle?
Yeah, no, Kyle's in the it's like Never Hike Alone's taking
Dude,
the
hell
chat.
yeah.
Ben
Ben
the
too.
whole Womp Stomp
Holy
production
shit.
team. Ben's in there. It's funny.
I still, you know what? I know it's completely late and completely out of the blue, but I still owe Kyle an apology. So I'm gonna apologize to Kyle right now if he's still watching for a silly circumstance on the set of Snow. So I wanted to stop and say that. Please go ahead, continue with what you were saying.
Oh, I was just saying like the way, and then all the good names are taking podcasts out there. I love those guys. Shout out to those guys real quick. I was gonna say just the way that like because I had we had gone out and done 13 Fanboy, and that's where I met Nora. And so it's just funny, and it's just like the way that sort of like you create something and introduces you to people, you have similar ideas, and it's not just about sort of like the relationship that I had with Nora to say that like she had a relationship with Deb. We were working together to create that film, and that was a beautiful relationship. And then we were able to go off and create things for the Never Hike Alone brand with Disappear and Never Hike in the Snow, but then she got to meet you, and she got to go and do something that she really wanted to do, which was working with Freddie, and you guys got to do that mutual love. So it's nice to see the way that that works. And I'm sure there are people that I met on the Dylan's New Nightmare set that I wouldn't have met before that can come in and work on other things in other ways, shapes, and form. And it's just the way it always works. I mean, people end up, I really thrive off of that. And that's one of my favorite things about the bringing everybody together and watching people collaborate. I mean, even on Never Hike Alone 2, we had some people who came on even as volunteers who ended up finding their departments, who sort of found their way and sort of like if they got into the industry the way that they want to go. And I want to, sort of, encourage that culture on set to not look down at people who are volunteering as people who are in the way who don't know anything, but the people who are eager to get out and learn something. When you give them something interesting to do, or they may have a talent that just is going underutilized. And so I don't know. I'm really like, I really like that about the sets and the way that it comes together and the way that sort of this is, and I'm thinking about it, especially like with this year, it's sort of like there's a lot of projects that through our friends. I mean, look at Ben. I mean, I met Ben through Evan because we were renting lenses to shoot Never Hike Alone 2, and Evan said, hey, I want to come out and help. And then when Evan wasn't available, he's like, I got my friend Ben. Mm-hmm. And then Ben came out, and now he's, Deep Heat Pathosis, 13 Fanboy, Dylan's New Nightmare. He just finished his one of his first directorial debuts with Orchid. And, we worked together on the last broadcast projects, and we've been working together for a long time and doing a lot of things. Came out and traveled and become really good friends. Mm-hmm. Ben tells probably, I think, my favorite story in the Never Hike Alone behind the scenes. But again, it's like it all started because we needed to rent lenses to make mm-hmm. Never Hike Alone. So it's cool to see this tree grow. I feel like it's a coaching tree. I feel like Nick Saban.
Well, no, dude. I mean, the people that are smart, they recognize the sort of atmosphere that you help foster with Womp Stomp, right? And like I met Ben through another project that you worked on that we don't talk about very much anymore, but but the fact that I met Ben on that set, and again, it's the funniest thing on that set. Like I was the only one that was kind of, I guess, not necessarily counted on for being on that set. And so when they ordered lunch for everyone got a Subway sandwich except me. And it was just an oversight. It was nothing malicious, but Ben saw that and literally like tried to give me his sandwich. I ate half of it and I was like, thank you so much. Please, you eat half too. And I was like, oh, this is the kind of guy that Ben is. Even though I've just met him, he wanted to share his food.
You met him on Disappear.
Yeah, Disappear. Yeah, well, I know, but I met him on Disappear, but I really had the interaction with that whole sandwich thing on this other project that we worked on.
That's right.
No, absolutely.
That's when
that was the real. Yes, exactly.
You guys
and that was
did Lady and the Tramp. You ate.
We did. We met in the middle of like a spicy Italian or something, if I recall. Yeah. But I met him on Disappear, exactly, and that's how I knew that once we got to the crossroads, when we had our delay and we were trying to really dial in the script and dial in the crew and make sure that we had the best crew possible, that was one of the most crucial changes that we made, was bringing Ben on. And it was so great too. And again, without getting into specifics, but I came to you at one point and I was like, I think I want to try and change to Ben. And you're like, oh, great. I was already kind of on that train. Like,
sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'm a few like I can see that the plays a few steps ahead, and I'm like, I'll get there. I just need to get through what I'm doing. And I think that it was for the best, and I think that like over the years, we've worked with a lot of different people. It doesn't always work out. And you just sort of got to find your own way, because it's the people that you have seamless communication with. And if you just can't have seamless communication, if you can't have trust, you can't have a good time out there. If it's just, if people are making decisions without, checking in with the team, I think that that's one of the things that that I always try to bring into the project. It's like, please do not run off in a direction on your own, because you may, you got to check with so many different people. And that's one of the things I've really sort of learned over the years. It's like, even the most brilliant directors, they just don't run off with an idea. They'll come up with an idea, they'll come up with the right things, but they always present it to the group. And they always sit down with their most trusted, comrades to say, hey, this is the idea. What do you think? Mm-hmm. And then they take that criticism and they take the, the feedback, and they go and they make it better. And it's the best idea wins, and everyone's working to make the best product possible, because at the end of the day, we all have to put our name on the project in some way, shape, or form, either as a producer, as a director of photography, as the director, the writer, a production designer, all of those things. Everybody has to be set up to succeed. And if one person is making decisions without everyone else informed, not everyone else can keep up. And it's just sort of I know, was the chat going, oh, it's tiny.
Someone said, how small is that Coke? I was like, it's the only thing I can drink and get away with it colorifically.
I just wish you were that big in real life.
I know.
Just like a giant, like Andre the Giant.
This is figure. A 90-calorie Coke. Yeah, no, this is a regular Coke, man. What's the problem? You can't believe I'm this big?
Get some Peter Jackson perception warping in here. That's and so that's sort of, and that's why I really liked working with you, and we needed that on the team. And when we brought Ben in, I think it really solidified that, and the communication that I saw on set between you and Ben and Dave and Nora or Ron and Miko, it was just that's as a producer, that's when I get proud, because I'm like, I don't really have to do much. I just have to nudge things in certain directions and just keep sort of a watermark. I just make sure that we're at the watermark and that we're doing things that will look good. And that we're solving issues as quickly as possible and things like that. And Dylan's New Nightmare is one of the smoothest productions that I've ever been a part of. We didn't have the most money. I think it was a really nice, intimate set. And we made it. The thing I love about Dylan's New Nightmare is that, we shot it, we did that, and then we went out and did these little things afterwards that just took it from like the things that we shot in camera and had there, and then made it feel like, wow, what a big world. Mm-hmm. We took this budget, made it really feel like it fit into a big world, and executed it in a lot of different ways. So, like I've said 1,000 times, I'm really proud of everyone on that team, and I'm glad that fans have started to really kind of take to it. And I hope they keep supporting it, and I hope they're ready, to start thinking about supporting sequels and things like that when we get down the road and we get ready for that. But, that's just you're in that sort of post-release sort of, oh my God, that part's over. Now you're starting to look at the mountain that is fulfillment. So
yes, yeah, that, and not only that, but
it's never hanging on to releases about things we want to do about that and stuff like that.
I know, yeah, no. So exactly, I'm having to worry about fulfillment while still trying to, raise funds to cover final costs and things like that. I did, by the way, anyone that's watching that hasn't seen yet, we did just put a bunch of screen used items up on the Indiegogo campaign. A lot of really cool stuff there, and there's still a few more things to come. But yeah, if you want to get anything screen used from Dylan's New Nightmare, the link to our campaign is in the description box down below. They are a lot of 1 to 1 of 3.
I mean, there are Freddy masks. I mean, the actual Freddy mask that Dave wore is available. I mean, that's 2
screen used gloves. We got the pen that everyone hates. We have a couple of screen used pens. So that's actually a good transition. Well, first, before we move on, I want to say that, yeah, just to the point of bringing on the right people and Ben and everything. Ben, one of my favorite moments of DNN, and I want to ask you this later, so think about this throughout our conversation. One of my favorite moments of DNN was day one. At the end of day one, Ben pulled me aside and not in front of anyone. We were outside, and he's just like, "Hey," and forgive me, Ben. I don't know if you wanted to keep this a secret. I don't know why you would have, but he said, "I just wanted to let you know that was one of the best day ones on set that I've experienced." And I was like, that
was a good day one.
It meant so much, though. Yeah, but it really was. And it went so well. And like everyone brought their A game, and it was like, yeah, like it was funny because that from that point on, we were like, fuck, I hope we can keep this quality up, you know, and like make sure. But like that moment, and then one of the specific moments, I think it was day 2 or day 3 when we were reviewing footage late into the night, as we would tend to do, is review footage really late. But like you at one point were watching something and you like started jumping up and down behind the seat while we were watching it, like with excitement. And that like meant a lot to me, just on, even outside of, great, we're excited, we've made a good film. That to me was like, great, Vin feels like it's been worth his time and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. And I think I remember exactly what we were doing. I think it was the table flip stuff. And I remember that was one of the first technical challenges that we came up with, was like, how are we going to do this like table flip? It's going to be like a series of cuts. And we talked about the way that was going to work. And I kind of pitched a formula. I was like, I think if we do this, this, and this will work. And trust me. And so it was really like, okay, yes, it did work exactly how it worked in my head. I led you to the right place to be like, you can trust in this type of effect. And that's what a lot of what it is. It's a lot of things in film are sort of like formulas. There's a way to, tell story and make and create sort of things. But you have to like come up with the right ingredients. And that's why I was excited, was like, I knew that we had it in camera, the ingredients that when it got to it wouldn't make sense to anybody if they were just watching it there, like literally probably just a table flipping through the frame. But me being able to see like, okay, we caught edge to edge, there's a clean flip, it looks really good, you can see the underside of the table, it looks like it's flipping, it's the right rotation, it's all the things. I know we'll be able to matte wipe that, like perfect, we got a shot, this is going to be. And then I saw the shot in my head, and honestly, when we got all the way to color, when we were in color, and I said, hey, we talked about that thing, like, okay, now we got to get the matte wipe in there, and Tom put it in. As soon as Tom put it in, it was like, yes. Yeah,
because the very first edit, the wipe wasn't there. He kept the same color, and I was like, no, Tom, that's meant to be the wipe. And he's just like, oh, he's like, I just didn't see that. He's like, oh, great, that's a great idea. Yeah. And then, he added it to the cut, and we were like, oh.
Yeah, no, it's and so on set, I think on set, a lot of people are like, they're building their stuff and they're doing things, but they can't see it the way that we see it in our heads. So, I think for me, that was a moment where I saw forward in time where I was like, this is going to be so awesome when we get there. But we were 6-7 months away at that point. And it's interesting because, I think one thing I want to bring up from before was the fact that, Dylan's New Nightmare really came together in 2019. We raised that money. We were ready to shoot that film in the spring, and then COVID happened. And it's probably like the best thing that could have happened to us in the sense of like production. I mean, there's a saying, you can never have too much pre-production.
Yeah.
I think being able to raise more money, being able to put more into the film,
tighten up the
even
script.
The fact that that we let Miko grow a beard.
Yeah, added that whole monologue. For those that have seen it, the whole monologue, that wasn't there before. And that I will give credit to Vin, not that he wrote it, but that he was like, why don't you give Miko a chance to sing here? Like, write him a little monologue right here. And I was like, oh shit, okay. And so I wrote the monologue, and it's great. What's fun, and this is part of what I wanted to get into with you, is the actual response. Because a few people, more than a few people, have said, like, I love that Miko's monologue, he's talking about Victor Crowley, but he's actually talking about Freddy. That was always what I was going for. And the fact that a few people, like, it's great seeing all the little things that only a few people have picked up on. Like, only like one person have pointed out Ron's necklace holder. Like, did anyone notice the necklace holder? And I was like, good job. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of fun things like that. And that's one of the most, like, rewarding parts of watching the response. And I wanted to ask you specifically, what do you think of the response of Dylan's New Nightmare? How does it stack up to the response of other films that you've been involved with?
I mean, 100,000 views in the first, less than a week.
Would be way more than that now, except that we got age restricted on day 5.
I was going to say the age restriction really slowed it down, but I think what it did was, I look at it 2 different ways. You got to look at it from the standpoint of the plays and stuff like that. Once the plays go up on YouTube, there's so many things with the algorithm and things like that. Like, things are going to blow up. What I look at is like the industry blow that we made. We made all the trades. Everybody, like it like there were people who were in important places who were seeing these things. And I think from my standpoint, like, I'm proud as a producer because it's like, good. somebody else is succeeding. I was, sort of hovering over the project and keeping an eye on it, but really, like, I got to give you all the credit in the world because you were able to fly your own ship. It wasn't like I really had to do much. I just had to nudge you every now and then, and I just had to challenge you, and like just like that thing. And it's like, I think that that's what a good producer does. I didn't come in and say, okay, here's the speech that's going to be here. I'm like,
right,
here's what I want you to do. I want you to, exactly, because I'm thinking of, as a producer, I'm thinking about my actor, thinking like, this guy wants to do stuff. He wants to act. If he's coming back out here, he's putting on a show, and I think as producers and as far as like, what does this project mean for Miko? We have to make the project mean something for him, that it's going to like help him in his career, because he's getting back in the saddle. He's getting back in front of the camera. So why not give him an audition that like he can really show that he still has it? And honestly, I'm going to keep it going. Hashtag Miko used for Hatchet 5.
Yes. Yes.
I really think it needs to happen. It's meta. Let's manifest this into the world.
Shout out Adam F. and Green.
Yeah, and it was a good job there too, where you you wrote it within the world of Hatchet as well, which is really nice. So it fits Hatchet, it fits Nightmare, and it's just those things. And like, I was just sort of there. It makes me really happy. I'm really happy with the way that people have really like taken it in. Honestly, the Mad Monster screening was one of the best screenings I've ever been to, just for the fact that there was such a big space. There's a lot of seats in there.
280 seats, and we filled like 250 of them, honestly.
Yeah, so that was impressive. The fact that Mad Monster did a really great job with their AV tech setup. I thought they had a really great screen, really great sound. I think they gave the film, the best chance it had to, really impress the audience. It was a little dark, but like, that's stuff that you and I are going to notice. I think most people, and they'll notice it, but they're not going to blame you.
Right.
Like, it's not your fault that like the monitor, like that's being dark. There's no chance for you to test on it. So I think that like, those are the things we'll take to heart and we'll think about. But I think for people, they had a great time. They were really impressed with what they saw. And I think that, it was a testament of just sort of like the team that's sort of like, I think what stands behind with Womp Stomp too, because as a Womp Stomp brand thing, as far as production wise and bringing on a lot of the Womp Stomp team, I feel like, yes, it's just another, it's another check mark for us. It's like, yes, we did another good job. Even in the things like even the previous film we were talking about, it's not that we did bad job. I just feel like we have expectations and we want people to like really get, nobody does anything to have anybody half-assed like anything. You know what I mean? We want people to be really excited about it. So to see fans excited, see fans showing up and supporting it right then and there, and then coming by all weekend. I mean, even to have, like Dick Warlock come over and talk to you guys. And I'm blanking on his name and I'm so dumb right now, but who else came on? Who was Tom?
Well, there was, I mean, your boy,
Doug Tate?
Doug Tate. He came
Doug
over,
Tate
had some fun. Yeah.
But I mean, the real highlight of it was Tom coming over. And like, why am I forgetting his last name?
Yeah, from Halloween.
Yeah.
No, there was Dick Warlock and there was Tom Atkins. Tom Atkins.
Yeah, there it is. See, we're bad horror fans for doing that. We're sorry. We should just turn in our horror cards. Yeah, so Tom Atkins coming over and
we get there eventually. The knowledge is there. It just takes some digging.
Thanks, Rob. It's too many things going on in our brains because it's just like, oh, that one name you need, we're just going to keep that hidden.
Yeah, there's only a million Toms in horror.
Yeah, so him coming over. So again, it's like I get to sit back and see something of like, wow, like this is what it looks like. Because when you're actually experiencing it, it's actually really weird. You don't know, like it's just sort of overwhelming and you're just trying to be in the moment and sort of talk to people. But when you see it from afar, you're like, oh, that's what that looks like.
Yeah.
That's what that feels like. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's so cool because Dave is such a Halloween fan. The fact that Dick Warlock and Tom Atkins both came over, that they were like, oh, what is this? This looks great. And he was able to explain to a couple of people he's admired for years because of one of his favorite franchises, that's really cool shit. And yeah, it's really good for me to see as someone that kind of, put the project together. But again, none of it would have happened without, your assistants and everything and the people that we were able to bring on. So I do like the hashtag Miko for Wolverine.
Yeah. Hey, yeah.
Why not, dude? He's freaking certainly buff enough. I love that people were enjoying the beefcake shot. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I said the next fan film we're going to do is a Terminator film.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, really.
They send back Miko to start fucking people up. We should do it.
Nick Push's horror channel. Sent a $5 super chat. Running from the Stream Warrior is now on my gym playlist. Thanks for the great stuff, guys. Yeah, Running from the Stream Warrior is on Spotify. For anyone that doesn't know, that is available from Nancy and the Nightmares, along with Another Nightmare, the other song that's in the closing credits, or one of the other two songs in the closing credits. But yeah, so guys, if you have more questions, send them in the chat. We'll start to answer them. I'm going to move on to my next question, though. Believe it or not, as long as we've been talking, I'm only on question number 3. But
I don't doubt it.
So you already talked about the fact that, like, does the response make you more inclined to like you've just finished not finished yet, but you're in the process of trying to finish up Never Hike Alone 2. No one could blame you for wanting to take a hiatus from fan films for a while, but does the response make you more excited to like jump back in and finish it, as long as we can raise the right budget for it?
I mean, as far as like finishing that, like I know it's going to take some time, and it's also like producing and directing are two different things for me. You know what I mean? Am I going to direct a fan film anytime soon? No. Am I going to produce them? Probably. Like I'm sure other people are going to have ideas. There's internal stuff. All like, everybody in the Womp Stomp Films kind of group is like a filmmaker of their own in some ways. We just wear different hats for different productions so we can help our friends make films. So my friends all have ideas. They all want to do things. A lot of people consult me for the crowdfunding side of it and all of those things. I mean, I do have the animated side, Ghost in the Fog, that we can continue to go, which it takes less time for
Freddy vs. Rex.
Yeah, I mean, again, like animated. If we're gonna do animated Freddy vs. Rex, like that's another thing to talk about with fans, and really just
that's something we've never mentioned on a stream, by the way.
I know that's kind of a spoiler alert.
Something we've never mentioned on the stream. Yeah. So Vin, explain what Ghost in the Fog is real quick, and then it kind of gives
Ghost
a frame of reference.
Is a 7-minute short film that's sort of in the same vein as Disappear, about a group of 3 kids that wander into Camp Crystal Lake and never make it out. They just happen to the thing that sort of the cliche of the episode is that this one is brought on by an intense fog that has sort of led them to Camp Crystal Lake. And really what it is, it's a 7-minute showpiece of saying this is what Friday the 13th can look like in animation. Right now, just to keep costs down, we're keeping it in black and white, but doing the Sin City thing where the blood is red on the black and white. We've been in development for a while. We were trying to produce it while we were waiting for Never Hike Alone 2 to get off the ground. But the way the money was splitting out through the campaign and the costs that were rising for Never Hike Alone 2 sort of had to go, it's not going to be able to fund both projects. So we're actually going to launch a Kickstarter.
Oh.
I'm dipping my toe back into the Kickstarter waters with Ghost in the Fog. We're going to get it up on Kickstarter. We're going to try and raise $25,000 to just do the first 3 minutes of it. And if we raise $50,000, we're going to be able to do the full 7 minutes. But we want to be able to show people, we're going to upgrade the production design a little bit. We're working on that now, working behind the scenes with Mako. We're building the Kickstarter campaign to see, because we're contrasting and comparing. And I think it's time that Indiegogo and Kickstarter, for the Womp Stomp brand anyway, started to compete for our business, because Indiegogo really hasn't been our best friend very lately with some of our other projects. So yeah, we're going to do that. But with that, if that's a proven template to show that we can create content, there can be more Never Hike Alone content done in the animated world, including Ghost in the Fog, not Ghost in the Fog, The Ghost of Crystal Lake. A lot of ghost going on here. But that's the origin story of Ghost Jason coming back from Manhattan. And the other one I want to do is Pamela's Tale. Nice. Both stories I am going to write in short story form, and I am going to release that to the fans. If we cross 300,000, which I think we will, because we didn't have enough time to do the production for Ghost of Crystal Lake, or even think about doing that stuff, and I'm definitely not going to do it now because it's way too late in the game. At least what I was going to give fans were these written sort of detailed stories about what these stories are, have some illustrations done, and release that digitally to them. I can't do anything that's printed because that could get us sued. Mm-hmm. But that's sort of how I'm going to deliver those stories to fans. And I'll always have that passion for Friday the 13th. But my real passion, as far as like crowdfunding for films, for me, that's going to go into original work. And also just trying to pitch the natural stream of studios and things like that too, because I would like to get something that is sort of funded at that sort of way of it. And if there is a chance for us to blend going to a financier and raising 500 or 600 or $1 million to say, okay, our brand has a reputation with crowdfunding, can we throw an extra 50 grand on crowdfunding to take care of the stunt that I want to do, or anything like that? It may be a way to blend things that way too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's definitely some stuff there, and who knows, maybe in like many years after I make a couple originals, I'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna flex that old fan film bone. It's time to make this like my pet monster fan film I've been wanting to make for a long time.
Well, we finally get to Neo Freddy versus Ghost Jason, which enough
Oh,
people
I know,
have been
yeah,
asking
but
for.
me and Dave will just be like limping around at that point. No, but I mean it's different. I mean for Dylan's, I'd definitely, I'm here. We already have a formula. We've already talked about what we want to do. It's not like I have to sit down and write the script. I just got to read the script and give you notes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I worked out that first scene, by the way. I worked out exactly how it needs to go, in order to not break what we've set up, right? Because someone is supposed to be menacing someone in particular. However, it doesn't make sense for him to menace that person if he needs that person. So what if he menaced a younger version of said person sitting nearby, but still that person that he can menace is close enough to be stopped by something in the overhead bin, were there to be an overhead bin present in such a scene.
All right, well,
we'll explain it later. Again, we don't want to ruin it, but needless to say, we have discussed. I mentioned on my breakdown, my director's commentary / movie interruption, that we have 3 different ways this story can go, depending on what happens after this release of Dylan's New Nightmare. So once we know that is when I'll be able to actually start writing the script, and we can dial it in and all that good stuff. But we do know that no matter which way we go, we have an idea what that first scene should be. So
yeah, and that would be fun, and that'd be fun to come out for and do. Yeah, no, I'm really excited about the future of Dylan's. I think that like it's nice. I mean, I'm kind of coming to the end of my journey. You're sort of just starting yours in a way. Good luck.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's sort of nice to be kind of ramping down to the journey. We're still like mid post production. We'll be done like maybe the first week of October. We'll be probably exporting the week that the film will release, which is how actually a lot of major films are done.
That's how ours was done.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll be making, I came up with something today for, post production that we kind of figured out something that's kind of helped out one of the transitions in the film. Constantly trying to make it better. But I'm really excited about it. I mean, to see all of that work after all the delays, after everything that we went through, to now see the film up on the screen and being able to watch it and go through it. I heard the opening score yesterday, and listened to it in the big headphones, went into the car, cranked it in the car, listened to it there. But I'm just starting to get excited. Like the pieces are all starting to come together, like in post, like everything's sort of moving in opposite directions to come together in one place. So like you'll hear music, but it doesn't have the right picture on it. But like you'll hear sound, but it doesn't have, the right color on it. Or you'll see color, but it doesn't have the right sound. And so it's like all these different things that like, if you're seeing everything individually, you're not seeing it together. And then once it finally comes together, it's just like, And I have a feeling that when it does all come together, it's all, strung out, and ready to show. It's just going to be, I don't know. I'm really excited for the reaction that fans are going to have. Again, like, it's like, I feel like Dylan's New Nightmare kicked off spooky season for Womp Stomp Films. It's kicked off spooky season in general. I think for a lot of people, it was one of the first things out of the gate. It's one of the first things that people were talking about. I know Friday the 13th is going to be a saturated market. At least Exorcist left. And I know I'm competing with, John Carpenter and Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. But I have a feeling that the Friday the 13th fans out there aren't worried about what John Carpenter's doing on Peacock or what Taylor Swift is doing on whatever the hell she's doing in the theaters. I think Friday the 13th fans are going to show up, and if they like what's going to be there, they're going to be vocal again, and we'll have a fun weekend. I hope everybody enjoys it, and I'm just happy that it's going to be completed, and I can really kind of like say goodbye to this part of it. I mean, obviously I have my, I have to go home and ship 2,000 something Blu-rays or whatever. But I think in between now and then there's a lot to sort of like, I don't know, be thankful for. And when we get into that, that'll be a lot of fun. But I don't know, there's still like, one of the reasons I'm here, there's still time to get on the podcast. I mean, still time to get on the podcast, still time to get on the film. We're closing our credits on Monday.
Link is in the description box.
Link is in the description. Jarvis versus Jason contest is still up and running. That will close on Monday. And when I say close, it's going like there's no guarantee that after the 25th that your name is going to make it in. Like, I'm going to keep making the list. I may catch a few stragglers, but like, you don't want to gamble, because you know, the difference between like me eating a sandwich could be the difference between you getting on it and getting on it on the 26th. So we're gonna get that. I got to build the final credits. I've changed my mind on announcing the winner. I'm not going to announce it on September 30th. They're going to find out when they watch the movie. I think that's the best way to do it. I feel like you want to find out who won, watch the first 5 minutes, and when your name pops up and it's right under Tom Matthews, that's how you know you won. And we'll contact you after the film, and we'll get you ready to ship you all those things, and we'll get the shotgun out to you right away. But it's really cool. I mean, I should have actually grabbed the shotgun for the stream, and maybe I'll go grab it in a minute. I might be gone for a second.
No worries.
But yeah, it's, you know, we want to get as many names on it as possible. Right now we have there have been 3,400 or something pledges, but there's 2,600 people that have actually pledged. Just people have done it multiple times. So we're at 2,600 people that have backed the film. I would love to see that number climb to 3,000. I would love to get it there before September 25th. I don't know if we're going to get it there just yet, but you know, we're going to stay open after we close credits. Blu-rays will be available throughout the end of the year. We're going to change the campaign up a little bit, but just like you, we have a ton of screen use perks that we can't show to people right now that we're going to put available on the campaign. There's you know, with the producer perks, those are going to close on Monday as well. You can email us before the end of the week, but good luck. Actually, I mean, honestly, if you're showing up with money and it's like right before there, I think I'll budge. But you know, as far as that goes, you know, if you want one of these top tier perks and you don't want to have to just buy it outright, become an EP. You'll be buying into it anyway. You'll just be able to bring one of these things home. If not, we will put them on the thing, but you won't get the EP credit. Your name's not going to be on the film. Right. I'm telling you, in 10 years, in 20 years, when they're talking about the dark days of Friday the 13th and there haven't been any films and along came Never Hike Alone, it's going to be cool to be like, I'm on that disc. It's a fun brag. I'm in the credits. $10 gets you a credit. You know what I mean? And I think that one of the things is maybe maybe everyone in the podcast, in this podcast right now has already backed it. The other side of it, especially for Dylan's too, if you haven't shared it, if you haven't put it on your social media feed, if you haven't put it on your, you haven't told your friends about it, if you weren't hanging out at dinner and said, hey, have you guys seen that movie, or have you heard about this, or your horror friends, like, there's still more you can do, and you don't have to pay a dime. Right. You know what I mean? Word of mouth is the biggest thing for these projects, and if we can just help spread the word, and that's sort of what can catch fire, that's how to do it. Be
a Davey Death Ray in a world.
Yeah, we need more Davey Death Rays out there, just sort of like doing their thing to help spread the word, and that really helps, because Dave helped out on Never Hike Alone too. He, I believe it's his cousin or it's a friend, is now going to matte paint some of our stuff for the film. Nice. And came on as helping make a better film. And again, like, it all pays forward. However many years ago I decided to help you, and now that is reciprocating because our work together, brought us to Dave, and Dave was able to help me with something really important for Never Hike Alone 2.
And hopefully Jeff West will as well, with maybe a Blu-ray
Jeff
cover
West,
or something.
Exactly. So it's all of the things that pay forward in that way, and they really have. But yeah, the campaign's still open. There's gonna be lots of cool stuff, lots of cool new stuff when after the film comes out. Friday the 13th. It's probably gonna be. It's gonna be late on Friday. It's gonna be probably like 10 p.m. Eastern. Maybe even later Eastern. I'm sorry, East Coast, but it just depends on our screening time. I don't want it to come out too far before the screening time for people to like watch it before they go into the film. Not that I think they would, especially if you're going to be there. But I think for me, I sort of like want to just launch it, put my phone down, enjoy the film, and not like look at it every 2 seconds. And then kind of come out of the film like I did last time, sit down and see what's there. So it's been a journey, man. It's crazy. We had to go through all those delays. We had to deal with, even both projects. It's been a long time coming for both of these projects. We've both been sitting on our hands since 2020. So I think 2023 is a good year. It's, we got Dylan's out, we got Never Hike out. Orchid will be out later this year. There's another film that I was attached to, still, that will be coming out later this year. Bath Bomb, another Womp Stomp production, will be coming out later this, or probably early next year. It's going to hit the festival circuit this year. They're working on it. I think they're going to finish it in October or early November. But really looking forward to that one. But it's been, a lot of just helping people out just for the sake of helping people out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just come out for a sandwich and a chance to be creative. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ask for much.
Well, no, I mean, everything goes well when you're involved, or at least,
and it just
we
goes
try
into
and
the
make
film.
sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to go into the film, and you know what I mean. And I have a great support system. My family. My brother happens to live in Arizona, so when I go out to help you, it's not like I'm I'm getting to hang out with my brother. So I get to go see my brother. I get to come down and work with you. Go back up and see my brother. Drive back to LA. So it's definitely worth it for me. And the reward is the work. Everything else will come down the line as far as that stuff goes when we start doing original stuff. But for now, it's like this is just the fun of it. And we just need to enjoy it.
So I have two questions. One is, I mean, obviously I have more questions than these, but these are supplemental. So one, we've had a lot of people say that their problem with the film is the end. Just that they wanted there to be more, which is ultimately a positive thing. But I have said, at least in one other interview, that you did suggest having a more punchy ending. Something with a little more, oomph, a little more kind of thing. And I think people were expecting that. And then ultimately I just decided that I would rather go for the emotional punch.
Yeah.
And that's the way that it ended up going. And it's been interesting to see, right? It's not 50-50 by any stretch. We're definitely more in the happy with the way we went side of things. But a lot of people have thought that there wasn't enough of a punch at the end.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's like, it wasn't like it was like I said, in a perfect world, if we had more budget, if we could have sort of done more things like at that point, it was the fact that like we brought it to the nub with our budget. We wrote that was in there. Have you talked about sort of like the special guest of it all publicly?
No, I don't know. What you're talking about towards the end?
Towards the end.
Yeah, no, Deandra? Yeah.
No, not just that, but like what we were trying to do.
Yes, I have mentioned. Yes.
So we were trying to take a big swing there, and I think that like we took a risk. We went all in. We went for that ending, and I think that was good. I think in hindsight, there were things that maybe we could have done, but at the same time, we shot out our budget when we shot it out. I mean, everything that we shot, we did with the budget that we had. It told a complete story. And I had the same thing because I felt the same way about Never Hike in the Snow. I went back and rewrote the end of Never Hike in the Snow, but I had raised a lot more money. So the original ending of Never Hike in the Snow, you know what it was? Tom getting driven away in the ambulance. I mean, getting driven away by the deputy, and Rick standing out by the gate, looking in, too scared to go in, and then drove away. And then Jason was just standing behind the gate watching from the distance, and then he faded into the snow, and that was the end of the movie. And when I read that, and I was like, fans are going to want more. I can't do it with just one kill. Like, we need to make this thing. I can't, all this stuff. So I came up with the Mabry kill. And we were able to add to the Mabry kill him searching around the cabins by going up and doing some pickup days, which were very cheap. To do something with, like, say, Freddy, you know what I mean? Say we want to do a Freddy bumper. And we had talked about it. We talked about different ideas that we do for Freddy. Well, that's a flight with Dave. That's a flight for Nora. That's a makeup day. That's blah, blah, blah. That's an expensive day. And then, we had talked about like some other special guests. We had talked about some other things that we could do. But at the end of the day, there wasn't enough of a budget from what we raised to say, let's go out and really film something that would be worth doing. We just had to lean on what we had and go from there. My only regret is that we didn't meet Deandra earlier, because we could have brought her out during the production and we could have put her in old Heather makeup.
Yeah.
Nora could have done like the whole Amy Adams from whatever movie she played an old woman in thing, and we could have made her look like Heather, and she could have done it, and I think it would have been great. I think it was sort of something we discovered it along the way, but I said the same thing. Like, one, it's your film. Like, I noticed that it would be something. It will probably be a complaint, is what I said. It will be a complaint, but what do they want us to do? Because we didn't raise as much money as like any of the Never Hike Alone films. Like, it comes like the fans get what they pay for, and they got a lot for what they paid for, in my opinion. And we want to continue the story as well. And we're hoping that people see, like, what Dylan's really needed to do is, one, show that we had an actual story there. And we did. We showed that everyone has talent. We showed that everyone, there's a story, there's a direction, there's ability to create and do what good. So now, if we've proven that, I think that it's time for fans to come and back a sequel so you can do the things that they want to see. And that's what Never Hike Alone 2 is, because I had the same issues with Never Hike in the Snow. You know, Jason stomps out the camera, we go to black, cut here starts up. Everybody wanted an hour and a half long feature for $75,000. And, you know, they just don't realize that that's not the type of productions that we run. We don't run and gun backyard productions where we just spend all the money on whatever. Like, we actually have to pay people because we bring in professionals to shoot these things, and we shoot at professional stages, and we do these, and then it costs money. And we work with, you know, we have to go through insurance, we have to go through SAG, we have to do these things. So we're running more expensive productions, but the productions have that feel. When people say, like, well, it's got a Womp Stomp feel, well, that's because we're putting money into it. This is the way that money is spent on actual TV productions. This isn't like, you know, your friend's hour and a half long, you know, $25,000 feature that looks like a $25,000 feature. It's the only way to say it. And it's not a dig. It's just the way it works. It's simple division. All right. It's simple math. It's take the money you have and divide it up between the number of minutes that are on screen. And that's how much you're paying per minute. That's how much you're able to invest in per minute for film. And you want to be able to look at your film and say, okay, this looks like $1 million frame, but we only invested this much into it. But when you do have more money, it gets a little bit easier to do that, and you have the tools to do that. And so I think that, like, people really underestimate what it takes to make a production look this good. And so if they like what they saw, and they saw that we did it for what, it was around roughly $50,000 to $60,000, maybe that. You know, not
if you
counting
take out, if you take out costs for
Indiegogo,
you know, perks and stuff like that, it's closer to 40, but yeah.
Plus the investments that you need to make for marketing and things like that. There's stuff that goes along the way. It doesn't just all go into one place. It isn't like we get to spend it all on the film.
Right.
Even though we end up spending it all on the film, then we're going to raise the money to do stuff later, but that's another story. So you know, so I think that, like, if anything, it's like, if they saw quality, if you watch it and you saw quality and you still wanted more, you're like, oh, I wish I got to see more of it. Well, that's a good thing, especially coming from us, because we're not a studio show. You know what I mean? It's not like we were just pulling out of, like, the big cash reserves.
Right.
Where we had a very small cash reserve to make something that looked very, very good for the budget that it was given. And now let's go forward with it. You know what I mean? Now let's raise $150,000, $200,000. Now we can say, okay, we can build up towards this thing. We can afford another big gag and do all that stuff. And it just comes down to the support, and if it's going to be supported, and then again, it's going to go on to the fans.
Yeah, I think we'd need 400 to 500 to do it right, to be honest with you.
I'm crossing in on 300,000 right now.
I know, and I got dreams to deal with, and reality warping and shit like that people want. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's the other thing too. It's like, if you want to go true nightmare, I mean, that's like budget. Well,
the whole idea, right? People are like, oh well, you know, Freddie didn't do a lot. Well, actually, not many people have said that at all. But in my mind, I worry that people say that, and it's like, well, the sight kill is his first kill out in the reality. Like, my idea is that every time he breaks into our reality to kill again, he's a little bit stronger. He's able to bring a little bit more power with him. So, like, ideally, the remaining story, like, he gets a little more powerful throughout the film, and we're able to spend more money because he starts to warp our reality the way that he can the dream world, you know, as we go along. But that's all very budget restrictive, you know what I mean?
Well, Tyler in the chat over here is saying that he's a VFX artist.
Yeah, so Tyler, I wanted to talk to you about Tyler, actually. And we may have to have the majority of the discussion off camera, but Tyler sent a sample shot of him tweaking what we had, and it did look good. And he offered to tweak the other shots we have in the film for the Blu-ray release. He did offer gratis, just to kind of show what he can do. And so I was meaning to talk to you about this. So yeah, Tyler.
But that's the thing. And I think that's one of the things. I think that, like, with Womp Stomp, we've slowly built other production parts of the production that we've gone, we have a good post production. We have good.
Tyler might be a good
VFX.
a good guy to know.
Tyler would be a good. Hey, Tyler, we got some stuff going on via Never Hike Alone too. If you want to hop on, jump in my email, slide my DMs.
Dude, Tyler, we might have just gotten you a DM to slide into, bro. No, I'll show you what he sent, and Tyler, I'll be reaching out again. Vin is the one I wanted to discuss about this because obviously we hired a VFX team, and we're not trying to step on dicks or anything. But at the same time, if you bring a certain skill and you want to show what you can do and be involved in a more prominent way next time around, fucking fantastic. And we'll welcome that. So, all right. So yeah, he says, okay, cool. Huh? So yeah, he's up for it. Now, a question I have for you, Vin, and the last one I'll ask you about DNM before we segue into Never Hike Alone 2, even though we already kind of have.
Yeah, we're just blended back.
Yeah, pretty much. So you were one of the first people to read the original script. What do you remember? Well, not what do you remember, but how do you think it came out versus what you pictured in your head when you first read it? Like, how close were we?
I can't even remember the first script.
It was only like 4 years ago. What the hell?
Dude, it's gone through so many iterations, or like we talked about it, all those things. I just remember we just had a core idea. The core idea of Dylan being an adult, the adult world weighing down on him and making him susceptible to Freddy. And
the audition scene, the psych scene,
yep,
and the final scene, and I think even the call scene were all there, but everything was tweaked a little bit.
Yeah. So I remember that. I guess, like, what do? We added the audition piece. We added. No, there was a lot of little things, because I am firm in my mind. We definitely improved the film in script form because of the delay. We added the monologue. We tweaked some lines. We tightened up some things. You helped me sort of condense it in a more Hollywood friendly script way, because I had a lot of description where the description only necessarily takes one sentence, and I was just fluffing it up a little bit. So there was a lot of that kind of tightening. I think you had something that something smelled, and I was like, don't worry about the smell.
Yeah, probably. It doesn't surprise me. But yeah. So all of that, we definitely tightened up the script. There was, most of the stuff was there, but we tightened it up and we added where we needed to add, and we even tweaked the psych scene a little bit, because we were going to try and get someone in particular to play the psych. Yeah, and by the way, that someone in particular might be invited to said screening that we are talking about. How fucking cool is that?
Yeah, now we get to go to be like, what?
I feel like,
you could have been in
see this. What you missed?
It could have been for you.
Oh no, you had to make another Insidious movie.
So important.
But no, not only that, but dude, like, there's a lot of people from the franchise that were name dropped in that possibility of attendance. So again, we're sort of talking about stuff that we can't talk about yet, but it's exciting. Let's just say that if you look at the comments on the film, you may notice a particular comment from a particular person that if you follow the thread, you can maybe figure out what's going on. But it's pretty cool that people, let me just say this, people involved in the original franchise certain people have seen the film and taken note and commented positively about it. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen from that, but I am, just like all along the way, I say two things. I maintain a reasonable degree of unreasonability, and this whole project has been a series of wouldn't it be cool ifs that have continued to happen.
We got a cool wouldn't it be cool if on Never Hike Alone not too long ago, so it's been in fact we're still shooting Never Hike Alone 2. We have another shoot this Sunday for pickups, but that'll be the last one. Ben's coming up. Hey, Ben.
Oh, right on. That's great. Oh, Ben's back. What up, Ben? Okay, so this is my question number 7. Let's shift to Never Hike Alone 2 now. how has that experience been different shooting a full-length feature versus focusing just on a short for
Oh
once?
my God, it's hell. Um,
Well, how? No one
it's
knows.
been, you know what? It honestly, like, this could have been Never Hike Alone 2 probably could have been a. If I would have known everything I would have known ahead of time, I could have just scheduled it in a way that it would have been originally there. It just sort of, um, it just kept throwing different curveballs at me. It threw all these different curveballs. This was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. Like, Never Hike Alone was hard, but at least there was like a version of that sort of team that could be assembled in a car for a weekend. Hey, we want to go improve something. We want to come up with something new. We want to go add anything to the movie. It was boop out into the weekend. It was a tank of gas, which was at that time like $3, and then
Yeah, 5 now.
some food, and we could come up with great scenes because we had a full camp to shoot out and all these different things. Like Never Hike Alone 2, just to get back to the camp to shoot the one day that we shot at the original camp for Never Hike Alone 2 for this movie. It took 3 months of manual labor of clearing a road, chopping down broken trees, like literally rerouting a creek and figuring out where the blockage were so we can get the water level lower, building a bridge, like all of these things just so we can get up and do all of our fight scenes and return it to the original location. The state of emergency in San Bernardino, which kept us from shooting in Angeles Oaks, we were supposed to shoot in April. We didn't get to shoot until June 24th or something like that.
Which we lucked out because you almost had to shoot during the premiere of Dylan's New Nightmare.
Yeah, that was a big thing. We didn't know. I didn't know what day it was going to land on, and we didn't know if we were going to get approved. And there's been a lot of like chasing things down and just like being relentless about getting things done. But I haven't done it by myself. Like I've had a lot of different people helping me. Starting with Kyle Klein and Brittany Montero, my two main producers. They've been here for me the entire way. They've been here since Never Hike in the Snow. Kyle's been here since the beginning. And they both stand by my side. Again, like talk about paying it forward. I go up and I work on the Jason Rising project with James Sweet and Carl Winnery. Well, they were instrumental in helping me get Anna to play Dr. Diana Hill, who's like. She's just awesome. She's just an amazing actress. They helped us get like a great location. They've always just been there with different things to help out. James has helped out in a million ways. Like I wouldn't have been able to build that Tommy Jarvis costume without James's help. And then there's just people who have helped out. Like my friend Rakep helped out and came out and helped produce. Kara Micheloti's helped produce and do a lot of line producing. Friends who have let me stay with them, like Carolyn Gare, who was an executive producer on the first movie, is letting me stay at her home so I can finish production. I was only supposed to be living here from March to June. I've been here since March. I'm not going home till October. So lots of different things like that. Lots of different people who have been helping me out. And obviously like the crew and everything like that. So but this has been like, I was doing I've been actually working on the scroll for the film, actually making sure I'm giving everybody credit. And every day I'm like, oh my God, yeah, there was this person and that person, and there was this and that. And it's like, even the little things of like giving people credit where credit is due, of like, if they even were making sure I got every location in there, everything that we shot. And there's been so much, and making sure everyone's like well credited. There's a lot of people in this movie. There's hundreds of people that have worked on this movie. The cast list is gigantic. Mm-hmm. Like by the time we had everybody listed out, I was like, oh my God, like there's a lot of people in this movie. There's a lot of logistical things. There were things that went wrong on set that we had to go back and figure out if we could fix it along the way. And again, it wasn't that, okay, we get the team of 5 out there and we go do it. It's like, no, we got to figure out how to do this in between like the big major things with like, we're burning tens of thousands of dollars a day. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's one of the questions I had is what was your biggest challenge? So it folds into what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it was that. It was making it all work with the budget. It was managing the budget, trying to get back out there, dealing with all like the hits that we were taking. It was, it was a lot. I mean, honestly, like I said, like filmmaking will give you a reason to quit almost every single day. And you just got to keep going.
If you fold.
Fold. But what I'm saying, it will give you it will give you a reason to say if you walked away, no one would blame you. Like you could literally point to something and be like that. And they'll be like, yeah, I feel you. Go ahead. Do what you got to do.
Dave's tooth breaking on day 2.
I know, things like that.
I was about ready to be like, oh, I guess we're done. Like,
and my mantra is always the same thing. And I think I probably said it to you on set. I've said it to James and Carl. I've said it to other people. I said, none of this is going to matter when you're standing on stage and you get to say, ladies and gentlemen, here's my film. And then all of a sudden, all the hardships and all the things that are hard and all the times like you were brought to tears or like you didn't think it was going to happen. I mean, literally, I've sat on this back porch multiple times this summer thinking, here it is. Here's where it all collapses. Here's where they say Vinny DiSanti couldn't make Never Hike Alone 2 happen. What a piece of shit. And, sitting there, but then having to pick myself up and go, okay, how do I get through this and how do we get out there and how do we make it happen? And, I'm excited.
Sorry, I want to interrupt you just because to this particular point, I had one moment where I was brought low on set, and it was because of circumstances where someone made their displeasure known, and it like I was trying to keep a positive eye on it, but this person's extreme opinion on the way something was looking really affected me, and like it got to me a little bit. And even the person like came the next day and like came to me and said, I don't know what happened yesterday, I was just in a really bad frame of mind, I hope everything's okay, because they didn't see me breaking. I kept that sort of separate, but a couple people found out about it, right? The closest to me on set found out about it. And you were one of the people that found out about it, and you came up and gave me a big hug and was like, dude, we all go through it. Everything's cool. We're doing an amazing job. Don't stress. Don't let it get to you. Just let's get back to what we were doing. And like, it was just, that's why, I value not just you, but Womp Stomp and the team that we've all gathered for Dylan's New Nightmare, that you have gathered for your projects, and the fact that like that's why the rap party that we had at the event where everyone circled up and I was able to kind of tell why each person was there and why it was important and why I was so glad, and a couple people had things to say, yourself included, and it was just so amazing to have that sort of atmosphere and camaraderie. And it really helped when I had my one moment of weakness, that we had this family that like more than one person, only about 3 people found out about what I was feeling, and all 3 of them came up to me and was like, gave me a hug and was like, dude, we're doing great. Don't let it get to you. Everything's going to be fine. The next day, everything was perfectly fine, like right out of the gate. But like, it was a weakness. It was a weak point rather. And you've fostered such an atmosphere that I tried to continue with DNN, and I think I was successful. That we all are there for each other. We're all there for the best product we can possibly make. And it's what was really fun, just as an adjunct to this, is the people that you brought in. Like, you take a risk, right? Recommending people to a project that I'm technically unproven on. And the fact that all the people that you recommended that came in seemed to enjoy themselves and really appreciate the project ultimately, like that is nice for me to see as well, just as someone that tried to make sure you're not wasting your time. Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it sucks when you want to, you're helping somebody and they sort of like drive your people nuts. You know what I mean? So, but I'm also there as a buffer, when anytime there's there. But it was really, again, it was like it was really hands off. And there was a couple times like we've talked. I'm like, okay, like here's how to sort of phrase this, because sometimes you can just phrase something wrong and it might just trigger somebody in a certain way. So there's ways to communicate and things like that. And I try to help.
You sent me a giant bullet point list, like a giant list of something that you had read recently of like how a good director, how to talk to actors and stuff.
Yeah, it was my challenge for you. I was like, I wanted to give you something to sign up.
I tried to do that, and you actually recognized a few of the things that I did that I learned specifically because of you sending that to me. So again,
I thought it was a good sort of checklist, because we, as directors, it's something called result-based direction, which is actually the worst thing you can do. Result-based direction is saying, I want you to do this, is actually going to make an actor do the opposite. So we tried to work with some phrasing, so we wouldn't be reliant on that, because it's such the easiest thing to do. It's the first thing that wants to come out of your mouth. So it was before you go out there, you think about that, but then you have this list to say, all right, what's another way to say this so I can sort of give them an acting challenge so I can get what I want, but I don't throw them off and I don't make them get in their own head about doing something. I think Dice just asked a question about like any perspective tips on filmmaking.
Dice rolling.
Look up directing actors and
tough on DNN, that Dice.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Look up directing actors and look up result-based direction and sort of based off that. It's a good weird place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I guess I could jump on that. I would say right now, I've always given like a kind of a wishy-washy answer to like, oh, what's the filmmaker? Just like, oh, just keep doing it and do that. I'll tell you what, like one of the most things you can have, like to start, have standards. Have standards. If you want to be a filmmaker, if you want to grow up in this industry, have standards. Be able to look at your own stuff and be like, that sucks. Honestly, like if you can't look at something and know that it sucks, and then you release it to the world and you expect people to think that it's amazing, then that's when people go, well, this person doesn't know what they like. Have some humility and saying like, well, I'm trying and I'm doing it. But honestly, don't start releasing things until you start watching it and go, yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, yeah, this is looking pretty cool. And when you start to get to that level and you start to do that, you start to understand what the tricks of the trade are. And that's how I started. I filmed something for Never Hike Alone I will never let people see because it was bad. Like maybe I'll let them see it one day when it's like a joke, but like it was just bad. And I said, okay, I'm not good enough yet. I'm not good enough to release things to get the reaction that I want. This is fine to show my friends. This is fine to show internally, but like to go out to public, like would I show this if I was going to be on, if I was trying to like get a job as like the next Friday the 13th director? Like no way, they'd never hire me. You know what I mean? And there's different levels of it. There's different levels of having, like, decide whether you're having fun or whether you're going to try, if you're trying to make a career out of it. If you're just having fun, don't worry about it. Go out and have fun and don't worry about anything else. Right. Just learn tricks and techniques and go. If you want to do it, you got to have standards. You got to stick to those standards. And you got to be willing to take the time, because you just don't become a filmmaker overnight. It takes years. It's taken me years to get where I'm at. It's taken years for where Cecil has gotten. He's come a long way since I've met him. I mean, if we go back and watch Sweet and then we watch Dylan's New Nightmare, I would say that you have taken some steps.
Hey, look, Sweet was pretty good for 2016, first time try. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also, I mean, obviously, like the technology back then too, how far the technology came. But I'm saying that there was certain intrinsic things that you've done that you look back and watch. Like, okay, now I understand.
Well, no, and you raised my bar. Like you raised the bar for everyone, dude. And like you shouldn't ever stop taking bows for that when it comes to fan films. Never Hike Alone just set a new standard that everyone has tried to match. McCrae set it, even a different sort of standard with Billy and the studio-ness of Billy. And I'm somewhere in between. That's not to say I think quality-wise I'm in between. I'm saying film style-wise, right? Dylan's New Nightmare is in between Billy and Never Hike. I
think they're all cut from the same cloth. They're all made with a professional sort of
That's
approach.
All I wanted. Like the fact that people can put Dylan's up there with those, that's all I cared about. Even if it's third, like fine, great. I don't care. You guys did amazing work. Like that's great. I don't mind. As long as we're in the conversation. Being as like top three. You know what I mean?
Good. It's definitely where you want to be. You want to be in the conversation. Like I didn't and I think the thing is, it's not even about like what other people think about it. It's like what you think about it. You want your product to go out there and look as good as what else is out there. I'm kind of a competitive guy just out of nature, but I think it's with myself. I'm always competing with myself. I want to be proud of what's up there. And if someone else has figured out a better way to do it, I want to know how to do it better. And you
said something. Sorry, just real quick. You said something along the line when I expressed something to you. I was like, you essentially boiled it down to, don't worry, I won't let it be bad. That's essentially what it boiled down to, and it actually relaxed me so much. I was like, yeah, Vin wouldn't put as much into this as he is if he didn't think we could do what I think we can do. And like a lot of people, one particular person in particular might think that you had more to do with this than we are letting on. Like somehow you, much like Ghost Jason, you're the ghost director for DNN as well. But it's just not the case, and I'm confident enough to be able to say that. You were definitely someone that I leaned on. I look up to you as a sort of mentor in the space, and
Dylan's, I would say, was actually more of one of my best first AD jobs that I've done, as far as like being a good AD and being in that, like,
very much so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there, like, I think one of the things that was not, but I think that also helps you as a director too, because you had an AD in place that knew what you wanted and also knew how to set things up, because that's how sets usually run. Like, the first AD usually gets everything set up for the director comes over and approves and then goes. And so it was nice because it was just like, we all knew what you wanted. We would set things up, and we just ran a really tight set. So like, you were basically getting to direct sort of like the same type of atmosphere and pace and logistical sort of know-how as a Womp Stomp production, which is really nice. And that's why it's really nice to see that this formula works, because if we have these systems in place, it sets up people to succeed. And that's what I'm supposed to do as both a producer and an assistant director.
Well, but if you're going to work with Womp Stomp, you got to make sure you're on your shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, I never wanted to disappoint you. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of the nice things. One of the nicest things you said to me early on, and I mentioned this during one of our Q&As. By the way, we have 3 different Q&As from 3 different screenings that we can present on the channel, that we will be presenting on the channel.
Oh yeah, we definitely should.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to say was that, and I've already just forgotten spaced where I was going with that. What did you say leading into that? Just give me one little reminder.
I was talking about, you were talking about you got to come with your A game. And then I had said something to you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that one of the earliest things, and yes, this is, thank you. Beautiful. God,
this
is why we work
you
together.
Don't disappoint Vin, or he'll stick your head in the toilet.
But no, you said, cause I mentioned, cause I'm a very self-deprecating guy, and like, I don't have the most confidence in the world, but I said to you, I was like, I'll bet people ask you why you're still working with me on Dylan's New Nightmare. And you said, they do. You said, but I say, my response is, he listens. Like, when Cecil comes to me with a question and I give him an answer, he listens. And the other thing you said was that if I have a question for Cecil about the idea, he has an answer that makes sense. And like, that's what needs to happen. You need to have someone that's got that kind of control on the project. And that always made me feel good.
Do your own work.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do your work for you. I can't do your shot list for you.
You can tell me what I need to do, but you can't tell me, you can't do it for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But if you generate it, I can look at it and say, okay, now with my seasoned eye, or if Ben looks at it and he's looking at your shot list, or we're sitting there, we're looking at a cut, like, there are certain things that I've just gone through it a number of times where I know little tricks. I sort of was like, hey, there's a real fun trick that if you Dutch the angle, you know what I mean? Like, you can play with it. And it wasn't that I said, Dutch that shot. It was try playing with it. And it was giving you tools to play with, because these are things that independent filmmakers can do that we can do that's a little bit more slick and fun. That because we don't have like the full boat to go through 10 months of post and do crazy shit in post. So yeah, and I think it's nice, and like there's certain things that sort of like mirror each other in the films too that I kind of see, which is kind of nice. And it's just, I think it's a language of the production company. It feels like you're watching a Blumhouse feature. Like, we know what we're going to get. When you're watching A24, we know what we're going to get. When you're watching Womp Stomp, I think we're starting to really establish a brand of, like, even outside of when I'm directing something, I think we established it with Pathosis. I think when we went and did Imagine, we established it that. I think we established it with Dylan's. And we're going to establish it with all of our other productions as well. I mean, even the productions that like sort of weren't our best, they're still they still look pretty good. They still look good. They still sound good to the most part.
Well, to that point,
that's that up. Yeah.
That's one of the nice things one of the nice moments I had after Dylan's released, where you were like, what's the like to dislike ratio? And I checked and I was like, I don't know, I haven't looked. And you're like, check here. And I like pulled up and I screenshotted, and we were at like 98.5% like to dislike ratio. We are still over 98% like to dislike ratio on the project. And you're
you want to be.
you didn't say anything particular, but you were like, oh, if only all film projects had that ratio, essentially is what it boiled down to. And I was like, that's so fun for me to see, because I know that you have your fingers in a lot of pies, and like to see that you're happy. It was the same thing as when we got the reaction to the images, and you sent me a message once, like where you're like, in a world of Jason fan films, make a Freddy fan film. And it's so fun because it's justifying to me that, like, yes, I didn't waste Vin's time. Like, he's seeing the benefits on his level of, like, you know, the fact that everyone's like, yeah, Womp Stomp did it again. You know what I mean? I don't take umbrage with that, because my fucking name is big and bold right after the credit, or, you know, right after the film ends. And, like, people will see that I directed it, but I don't mind at all being under the Womp Stomp banner. And when you're like, yeah, I'm intending Womp Stomp to be like a Blumhouse, I'm like, that makes total sense. And I'm glad to be I guess, quote unquote, successful part of Womp Stomp on that side of things. You know what I mean? Because it says to me that hopefully you are going to be willing to continue on and, like, invest in the Dylan's brand, because you know that we're going to do right by Womp Stomp as a result. You know what I mean?
I mean, honestly, it's like being in a band. You know, each one of these projects is like sort of like being in a band. We all different, like, you know, in one band, I'm the lead singer, guitar player. In this one, like, you know, I get to kind of hang back and just play rhythm guitar. You know what I mean? And I get to kind of just be in my own little corner of the stage and sort of watch it. But I really like, honestly, like, these are the types of projects. Honestly, the two shining achievements for me, I think, are really Jason Rising in this, as far as, like, being a producer, being in the room with two people, or, you know, with you and your team, and sort of like being able to sort of, I mean, you make my job easier because you work so hard and they work so hard and they brought a lot of it there. And it really feels like my contribution really is that, like, that 10%. That little bit of an extra budge, or like that little bit of an extra energy that when, you know, I feel like with Jason Rising, I always came in at times where they had done a bunch of stuff and they were super tired. And then I'd come to set and be like, all right, we're going to do this. And like, and it would just bring the energy back up, and we would do things and be like, remember, you know, we're making a big movie, folks. Like, here we go. Like, blah, blah, like having that energy and just sort of like bringing that thing. And it's like, I think I like bringing that to projects, and I like bringing that energy because I'm just excited to be out there. When I was a little kid, I wanted to work on movie sets. I wanted to be in movies. Like, I didn't think it was possible, so I never really gave it any thought until I got into college. And so actually that I get to do it now, and like right now I'm doing something is like, I mean, to a lot of people it might mean a sense, but like I'm working a side gig working on the voice for the set production, and like literally walk through that stage every other day, like casually. But then it's like on NBC. It's like
I know you like telling me when I'm messaging you. You're like, sorry, on the set of The Voice. Let me message you back in a second. And I'm like, Jesus, all right, let's put your dick away first.
I mean, for me, it's just like, it's sort of like, but it's cool. It's like being in these, like, yes, it's the set of The Voice, but like for me, I'm looking at it like, oh, look at the way they built this stage. What's this material?
You pick up all kinds of shit.
Well, how do they build? How many lights do they have in here? You know,
and that's the kind of experience that I don't have, that I can't get because I'm not out there on those things. Like, that's why it's easy to trust in what you bring to the table, because you've got that experience and you're building, like, you're doing it. It's funny what you just said, reminded me of Kevin Smith. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. I that's where I get the reasonable degree of unreasonability. That comes from Kevin Smith. And he's talked about how being the director on like Supergirl or Flash, when he guest directs, he's like, I'm more of the cheerleader than anything, where I'm like, you know, before every take, I'm like, all right, guys, here we go. Let's get this ready. Like, keep in mind, we get to do what such a small amount of people in their lives get to do. We get to make pretend for a living. All right, are we ready? Let's fucking do this. Go. You know, and it's like that. And that reminds me of the energy that you try and bring, like you were talking about for Jason Rising, where it's like, yeah, dude, we're in rarefied air. Like, we're all hanging out together, making a fucking Freddy movie. Like, that was the nice thing. And everyone was just so on board, and it makes it such a unique experience, so much so that like multiple people the Monday after our shoot woke up and like messaged me like, oh, it sucks that I'm waking up and not heading to set today. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just so fucking cool. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there, but
No, that's good. I'm just keeping an eye on the comments too, because people are saying some pretty good stuff in there too.
yeah, please shout them out. Ghost Pirate
No, I was gonna say
Entertainment.
Mitch.
The Pirate
Mitch
sent
brought
a
up
lot
good
of people
point.
our way for the premiere.
Oh, hell yeah. And then Mitch made a good point. It's like, as a fan reviewer, the thing that most stands out about Snow, It's Me, Billy, DNN, and etc. is that they're not childish or infantile stories. And I would say that is a big marker in the fan film world, is that, like, and that's what drew me to Dylan's, was that it was an adult story. It was a real story. It wasn't just like people playing with their toys. You know, a lot of the times
Not just action figures.
It's not just action figures banging into each other. It's, you know what I mean? And it's not just like a bunch of caricatures, or like, you can have that, but, you know, if you're going to go that route, I think you got to have humility to be like, hey, we're just out here goofing around, not be like, we're the best.
Yeah.
Like, we're the best thing out here, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I mean, are you? Like, and why you can't, like, I have trouble saying it. And like, I have a lot of people tell it to me. And like, you know what I mean? I feel like, especially with fan films, we really have to like watch the peacocking, because it's like at the end of the day, we're using somebody else's entity. We're surfing off of a wave that's already existed. We're taking things that are there. We're reinventing it in a lot of different ways. That's making people pay attention, and we're getting more credit for the creativity that we're taking to it, because we're not doing the infantile stories. But you know, even the same day, we are in our own small little world. This is a lily pad to get to another place. And like, I think another good, this is what I wanted. This is the thing I forgot to say before, as far as like what filmmakers can do at a young age or at a young part of their career. You can start at filmmaking if you're 50. You know, I'm still going to call you a young filmmaker, because you haven't been out, you haven't got your set legs on you yet. Mm-hmm. But if you really want to learn something, I mean, fan films are a way, because you have an entity. It's like, it's established characters. You start to work with it in a way that's sort of like, there's familiarity there, and you can play with the pieces a little bit easier than come up with something from scratch. Same thing with shooting scenes. If there's a scene from a movie you really love, try to recreate the lighting. If you got a room, if you got a set, if you got something around there, start playing with the lighting and the camera and see if you can recreate the shots. If you can start to pick out the right lens. What lens did they shoot this with? Is it shot on a 35 or is it a 40? There's a slight difference there. Some people are going to do it. Is it a 50 or a 60? Mm-hmm. 60 isn't usually used. 50 is usually the normal. But what happens when you get out of 50 and you don't use a 50? What's an 85 look like? What's a long lens look like? What's a wide lens look like? How wide can you get? What's a oneer look like?
Thank God I could rely on Ben for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's not anything like a director normally like sort of has to be the expert on if they have a good DP that helps them. But as a director, you being able to communicate with your DP in a language, like he's like Ben's thing on set that he always says, he's like, listen, we've talked about the language of this film. I'm going to be speaking Japanese. If you come in and you start speaking Cantonese, I'm going to let you know that you're not speaking my language anymore. Like, so you need to, and we're going to establish why those things don't work. And he'll walk you through it. But the more fluent you get in that language, and the more you can understand it and understand, okay, you know what, we have this lens in our kit, but we're not going to use it because we've really established this or this, or, you know, in these types of moments, we're in this type of lens, we're in this type of movies, we're in that type of lens. And knowing the difference of why you're on those lenses is something that you can do on your own. It's something you can set up on your own. There's things that you can play with, or you can get together with a DP on a weekend when you're not doing anything and just play with stuff.
I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials leading up to DNN's actual shoot, trying to learn the difference so I didn't sound like a fucking moron in front of you guys. You know, and luckily, you know, Ben wasn't judgmental. Well, I think that's another big thing too. Is like don't worry about being wrong, and don't trying to sound smart. Right. Don't try to be smarter than everyone else on set. I just wanted to understand the reason as to why the closer angles do what they do, or the closer lenses, the 85s versus the 50s versus, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted to understand the core differences, but I was still very much relying on Ben to tell me what would be best for which situation. You had more of an opinion on it with Ben than I did at certain angles, because you're more familiar than I was. But that's all stuff that I was trying to learn from you guys. Like, I was trying to absorb a lot from you guys. One of my favorite things I absorbed was forgive me if I don't remember the exact numerology, but was it 10-3? Oh yeah. It's 10-3. Okay. Yeah, so there's 10-1 and 10-2 on a set, where if you have to go to the bathroom, you say I'm 10-1, and if you have to go number 2, it's 10-2. and Ben and Vin, like on the first day, I don't even know why it came up, but they were like, yeah, we're trying to do a thing where it's like, it's like 10-3 is just, oh, I'll just go fuck myself, that kind of thing. And what was great was on like the third day, we were up in Miko's room filming, and like I suggested something, and Ben was like, "Oh yeah, I already did that." I was like, "Okay, great. I'll just go 10-3 then." And like Ben was like, "Perfect execution," and it made me so happy that I like was able to make you guys laugh, because you heard it too. You were laughing too.
10-3, bring
10-3, bring it to every set. But yeah, no, I loved that, because that made me feel like more in it with you guys than even a lot of the filming. So I don't know, just those are the fun stories on set that people don't talk about.
Yeah, and I think that like you really got to pay. I mean, I think you got to really pay your dues and respect to the people that have been on set, because it's like I remember when I first got on set, I had done 8 years in the industry. I worked in animation. I had a very specific sort of experience. When I got on set, it was like being there all over again. And now being on set for 8 years, I can look back and say like, wow, I know the lingo. I know what that means. It's you just start to feel comfortable. It's like, it's like,
wait, there was one that was New York, Chicago, and
that's
LA.
The way to do
the boxes,
apple box.
The apple box. I learned that from you guys too. Like I learned a lot of shit from you guys.
a lot of different things, and and that's the thing. It's like when you're on set and you're around those different people, you start to learn their terminology, and it's fun. You know what I mean? There's a lot of fun to it. And then. So it is. It's that. It's getting people caught up, and I think that's one of the things we try to do on Womp Stomp too. Is that like we try to catch people up. When I get PAs that volunteer, like I talk to them a lot about like sort of what's expected. In fact, I had a meeting. Actually, there he is, Joey. Joey was in the chat the other day. Joey and I had to sit down and we talked about that, like what the different types of PAs are. I remember when I was talking to somebody and like I still do production assisting, and they were like, "Oh yeah, all you do is get F and coffee," and I was like. Please come and step onto a live action production that I have been on, and you tell me that all you're going to do is get people coffee that day, and watch how fast you get fired. Like coffee, I don't get people coffee. Like honestly, the people get me coffee, even though I'm on that low run because of the way that this works. It really is. I think that people like production assistants are the most undervalued and not manipulated, but like. Just the fact that nobody get taken for granted so much.
Overly taken advantage of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the fact that like, and I was explaining this the other day, like, there are 4 sort of core PAs that are on a squad, on an AD team, and each of them have very specific duties, and those are duties that you don't learn in normal life. These are not skills that you learn in normal life, like being a good communicator and all those things. Those are things. But they're so specific, and the fact that those 4 core positions, especially on set, get paid so little compared to like say like an additional PA comes in, or just like an office PA who's sitting up in the office making copies all day. Like being a set PA is like being a grunt in the military, out on the front lines, taking all the fire, and just and having extreme responsibility, and so much of the day's like time receipts can be affected by the PAs for the fact that they're so in charge of so many different things that can screw over a shot. Especially the PAs in charge of the cast, in charge of working with camera to make sure that like everything's in the proper place, that that roads are locked up, that doors are locked up, that no one's going to walk through the shot. All of these different things, super important things that get taken for granted. You go through that boot camp to become a really good PA, and you can almost do anything. You can step into any different department on set and pick it up and go right from there. You can become an AD, you can become a producer, or you can step into the departments. Once you get that knowledge and that comfortability of when you step into a set, your eyes aren't big and wide anymore. You're not there like, "Ooh, I'm in Hollywood, I'm making movies, this is so cool." You're like, well, there's no, again, man, I'm on the fucking set of the
Grizzled veteran.
Yeah, you blah, 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 whatever. And then like, you sort of...
You become a teamster?
Yeah, basically. No, but like when like when Kevin Smith is going up there and like being all like higher energy and stuff like that, and I think about the people I'm on set with a lot who are like curmudgeons, like they live in
there he fucking goes again.
You know what I mean? Like just who they are. I think what I was gonna say was the thing that that really impresses the people, the curmudgeons, is when you show up with a game plan to get them home as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I got my shots figured out. I got all the scenes figured out. You do that, in this industry, or you do that in anything, you show up prepared. And that's why I like working with people who are prepared. Everything gets easier and the days go faster and you have more fun because you're not struggling to figure things out. You already got a game plan in place. It all comes down to the communication.
Yeah, I made sure to be as prepared as I possibly could. We never really scrambled. The biggest issue we had was on day 2 when we were trying to figure out the wall walk stuff with the freaking scaffolding, literally scaffolding that we had Dave up on, and you were on there first as a sample.
I was the guinea pig.
Yeah,
if it could hold me, it could hold Dave. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was all really fun. Now, all right, so let's just get down to some of the nitty gritty of Never Hike Alone 2 for the big fans here. What can people expect from this outing with Ghost Jason that might be different from what we've seen before?
This is a much bigger movie, and Ben can tell you in the chats. This is a movie. There's so much to it. There's so many sets. There's so many locations. This isn't. I've really kind of I always kind of figure out what movie I'm making sort of after the fact. I think with Never Hike Alone 2, Never Hike Alone 1, I knew that I was making 127 Hours on the Martian into one movie versus Jason. And that sort of set my guidelines. And then, I was making Never Hike in the Snow. And as I started to make it, I started to feel like I'm making an episode of True Detective. Like I'm trying to tell a story. I'm making a cop procedural story, so I'm going to follow these narratives. I'm going to think about it from that type of way to construct one of these stories. And as I was going through Never Hike Alone 2, when I started to look at the script and I started to really map out the way that the acts were built and the way that sort of the action was built out and where things happened in the movie, I realized that I built the outline of a kaiju film. And so I've really started to take in the approach, even in post-production. I've talked to, so that's right, everybody. The big footsteps are coming back. Every time Jason steps, no matter how big or small, it's going to be so loud. Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
I like it.
No, it really sort of has that thing. It's a battle of two monsters. You know what I mean? Tommy's one monster and Jason is the other monster. Tommy's bringing friends. You know what I mean? And literally, the way some of the scenes are set up, it's like a kaiju / Mortal Kombat fight. Nice. There's literally sort of a set. You could literally pull out, do a proscenium stage and be like, no, this is hospital fight time. This is woods fight time. This is camp fight time. It's really cool. In each set, we put a lot of money into the production design. The production design looks really, really great. Put a lot of production into the visual effects. The visual effects look great, but there's that emotional core story that we started in Never Hike in the Snow with Diana losing her son. There's the story of Kyle MacLeod being the only person to escape Jason in all this time, and the story of Tommy Jarvis and what has he been doing all this time, and Vinny Guastafara as Sheriff Rick Colon and what has he been doing all this time. And so all of these questions, all of these things that have been lingering since Never Hike in the Snow, when Jason stomped out that camera and people wanted answers, even questions that people have had since Never Hike Alone, where how did Tommy find Kyle? Why is Tommy acting this way? All of these different things, all of these answers that have been in my head for a long time are finally on screen. And that's what's such a relief to me. And, I think fans can just continue to expect more out of Womp Stomp Films of what we delivered. They saw Dylan's New Nightmare coming, and I hope it exceeded expectations, and people saw, wow, that felt like a big movie. Well, now, Never Hike Alone 2 is what Dylan's New Nightmare can be. Mm-hmm. If it gets the support that it needs, it can grow into something that what Never Hike Alone 2 is going to be, which is a full-length feature film. It's got a cast of, dozens of people, double-digit deaths, more professional effects, more professional stunts, more professional locations, and a professional post-production.
Maybe more Tyler Adams effects.
Yeah, in fact, we'll add more Tyler Adams effects. Will be great. And that when it comes out on Friday the 13th, that they'll feel like they're watching something that doesn't necessarily belong with the rest of things that are on YouTube. I mean, that's basically the goal. It's just to sort of blow the rest of what's on YouTube out of the water quality-wise. On not just the look, but on the sort of, like Mitch said, the level of intelligence that goes into the storytelling and the way that people sort of interact with each other and sort of things. I think one of my favorite compliments that I got was from Carl Winery, who saw Never Hike and was like, "Damn, like your blocking is incredible." And I'm like, "Yes, those." And so like again, like the level that I'm at with my directing and things like that, like those are the things I'm trying to work on. Like, I don't want like, you know, with so some differences with budget and the things that you can do with things like that. With Dylan's, we had to sort of lock things off.
Yeah.
We can only move around so much. We had very limited views of what we could do because we had to shoot in very specific directions. So
by the way, the couple of movements we had were very much appreciated by people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it works. With Never Hike Alone, I had more space to play with. And so that's good and that's bad. It's good because I have more space to play with. It's bad because if I just try to rely on the same old tricks or just sticking people in places and sticking to things, it could get bad. It meant that I had to get better as a director and fill space and have people move around and interact with each other and move forward and move backwards and switch positions and, the line that we had to watch as far as like making sure we're on the right side of the line. There were so many different, but what was so cool, I think, for me, like sort of sitting back and watching myself go, there were times where I was like, it's cool that I've covered the scene this way because I've given myself about 3 different ways to cut it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's going to depend on which take ends up being the best one for this one, but I feel like I've saved us depending if we can get into the shot this way or we can get into the shot this way. It just depends on sort of where we like. If we land on this take, I need this angle to get out of this film. But if I land on this take, I need something to get us out of there because that coverage isn't going to get us. And being able to think that far ahead, that for me, it's like when I really get to kind of excel and sort of just like pilot the ship and go. Like I'm just having a lot of fun. I really wanted to push myself. I'm really proud of a lot of like the things that we did. Ben and I went to Flagstaff a few weeks ago and did some pickups. Those are already in the film and those look badass. We're going to be again, we shot something this weekend that ended up in the film. I already saw the finished work. It looks amazing. I don't know if I showed it to you, Ben, but it looks great. It comped in perfect. And this weekend we're shooting something that's going to be the final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, like I cannot wait. Like I cannot wait for people to see this film. I think that people who started this journey with us in 2017 are going to watch this film and be like, wow. Look how far this has come. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous that this is what we're getting. Like I said, I heard the score the other day, and I'm just pumped. It just, it's back. It's like Never Hike Alone is like, I want fans to sort of feel like Never Hike Alone is back, and it's picking right back up where it left off. Mm-hmm. And holy shit, here we're in for a ride. And I think that really sort of like what the opening does. I think our teaser did a really good job of showing that like we're coming for people's throats with the quality and things like that. But as far as like the storytelling, I think people are going to be really impressed. I had, another team member sort of be like, who sort of came in later in the game to help with post, who was sort of like, who didn't know anything about the story, who hadn't read the script yet. And like literally within 2 weeks had like read the script, saw what we shot, saw the cut and had to build some of the sequences. It was like, dude, I can't believe this makes so much sense. Like, oh my God, I can't wait. Like went in, has just been like excited to be a part of it and was like surprised that I gave them a credit today. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh yeah, I put you down like here, this is what your credit is, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, wait, you're giving us credit for this? We just came on to help. And I'm like, no, like I want everybody getting credit for what they do. Everyone's going to get, what they did. So yes, Ethan has asked, much bloodier movie? Yes, a much bloodier movie. There's a lot of blood in this one. Like I said, double-digit deaths. Jason is a maniac in this one, and we get the emotional through line of, Tommy, Diana, Kyle, Rick. Everybody's got an arc. Everybody's got a story, and they all get wrapped up in a bow. And I finally get to see the last shot of the film color corrected. And, nice. I was just like, yes, finally. Like I finally get to see it with the way it's supposed to look. And so now I'm excited to see it with the actual sound and color in there. And I think, about probably end of September, I'll be looking at full cuts of everything in there, everything kind of like just getting tweaked at that point. And then we'll have a week to polish and we'll be exporting and it's off to screening time.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm very excited for you on that. The last couple questions I have here are, do you have something that you can say without spoiling what you're most excited for people to see in Never Hike Alone 2?
The blocking.
Okay,
No.
yeah. The way everyone
No,
moves across the screen.
most excited to see, honestly, the performances. The performances are, oh my God, like
Oh shit, Miko Hughes in the chat. What up?
Miko.
I want an invite to the Never Hike Alone 2 premiere. Yeah, me
Come,
too, motherfucker.
oh, I almost said it out loud. Holy shit. Um, come to a land up above. Anyway, yeah, we'll figure it out. But it's, I don't know. Everyone's performances are like, everyone brought it. I think everyone knew that there was a lot more writing on this one. I've gotten better. That's one of the things I brought to you too, is like one of the things I wanted to get better at was directing actors and things like that. So I've been doing a lot of study. And so I know that that's one of the hardest things to do as a sort of a younger director. So,
well, especially when everyone does such a good job at their fucking job that I feel like, yeah, you did what I had in my mind. Like, I don't really have much for you. You've already done it. Like, but that's one of the benefits of working with phenomenal actors, like Ron Sloan, Cynthia Cania, and of course Miko Hughes and Dave McRae. Miko Hughes blowing everyone away with his with his quality of acting. And
he blew us away on set too. I remember sitting there with Ron and being like, "He's fucking killing her right now." don't let him know. Don't let him see us. But holy shit, he's really ripping it.
Yeah. Hashtag Miko for Wolverine. Tyler Adams reminds us.
So I think the production design is really going to blow people out of the water. I think just like when they get into the sets and they start looking around and they're like, "What is this?" We shot at a hospital that hasn't been shot film-wise since 1952.
Damn.
Like, we lucked out. And so many, like, I'm telling you, Never Hike Alone has been a series of the greatest triumphs and the greatest defeats all in one experience. I'm sure Dylan's felt that way in a lot of things too. I can't wait to get to the point where I can just show it to people. And again, like, I'm going to live through everyone else watching it. So, and I think it's always bullshit when like filmmakers are like, I make the film for me. And like, if the fans like it, they can like it. But ultimately I make it for me. It's like, listen, if the fans don't like it, I can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
if the fans
I literally made it as a representative of Freddy fans. Like, Miko once called me the lore, the person, I forgot what he called me, like the lore master or whatever the fuck. Like, he just has to, he at one point just decided to believe me that I was, that I knew what I was talking about, and it came out that way. But yeah, dude, like, I hear what you're saying. It's crazy the way that works out.
Yeah, and I think that, like, obviously, like, the gore is good, the action's good, but it's really like it's this other piece of it. It's this other side that you wouldn't expect from a horror film that really kind of brings it this level of sort of just like, I don't know, quality to the film. I'm really excited for people to just see what it looks like, because it's really, really cool.
Keeper of the lore. There you go. He reminds
Keeper
me.
of the lore.
Keeper of the lore. Yes. He said, I remember the first day you had a backup plan of cue cards in case I didn't know my lines. I don't remember having that plan. It's possible, but I honestly, when I saw the last table read where, everyone came to play, including Cindy and Ron and Miko and Dave, like, everyone came to play for that final table read, which was about a week before we actually came out to film. And Miko did such a great job, and I don't remember him reading from the script at any point. Obviously, the script may have been out of frame, but he was looking at the camera from what I can remember. And I knew from that final table read that I wasn't going to have to worry about Miko. And that, honestly, maybe hamstrung me a bit as a director, because, a lot of times Miko was, like, probably looking for some kind of direction, but he just nailed what I wanted so much on the first attempt, or the first couple of attempts, that I just didn't have a tremendous amount of things to say to him some of the time.
But that's good. Sometimes you need to know when not to say stuff. That's actually like a really good, like, you don't always have to go out there and give notes.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I didn't want to, he did so good. Like, there was no reason for anything else. It's exactly what I had in my mind. So Ryan S says Dave McRae was unreal as Freddy. Like, seriously. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. We definitely felt that way. Miko felt that way because he was so happy with what Dave was bringing to the table, that it helped Miko with his delivery and his performance throughout, and that helped Dave with his performance. So it became one of those snowballs, like a positively reaffirming snowball rolling downhill, that just everyone kept wanting to help and make sure turned out the way we wanted it to turn out. So so yeah, I mean, ultimately both of these projects are really probably, look, I know that Dylan's New Nightmare is worth people's time. I know that Never Hike Alone 2 is going to be worth people's time, but Never Hike Alone 2 is going to be like the new thing that you're proving, right? That a fan film can look as studio as a full-length feature, you know, from the studio can look. And
well, I mean, I'll say this, like, I was actually doing some math the other day, and you know, the first Friday the 13th was in 1979 was made for $750,000. The last Friday the 13th was made in 2009 for $19 million. Since 2016, Womp Stomp Films has raised about $430,000, and we've created over 3 hours of content. And that's, I mean, and so I think that's, and a lot of it looks like it was made for a lot more money. I mean, even the first Never Hike Alone, which was made for about $40,000 to $50,000 at the end of the day. It's you know, I think that's sort of what I'm trying to prove, especially with Womp Stomp as a director, is the fact that, like, I want that opportunity that when we have an idea that's an original idea, and I go to an investor and I say, listen, if you give us this money, you're not going to get the same stuff that you get out of a lot of these other production companies that, you know, go out with this money and they have a very definitive look, and they take the very definitive shortcuts, and the films look the way that they look because of the way that there's sort of those productions runs, but they don't have to look like that. There's ways to make it not look like that if you bring this sort of mentality and you bring this sort of skill set to the set. And you know, I'm hoping that this sort of like generates opportunity for me. I hope it generates opportunity for the people in our group, you know, to get jobs elsewhere or to get their own projects funded and to bring us on and to help us kind of produce those different things. That's sort of the long-term goal. This is what we want to do for a living. Like, I don't want this to just be what I do for fun. I want this to do when I get up every day and I say, this is, you know, this is what we do. Because then I'm living, you know, quote unquote, living the dream, I guess you can say, which is like the worst thing you can say to somebody on set. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to be doing it, if I'm going to be making film, I'd rather be in the director's chair than eating shit somewhere in base camp as a PA. That's for sure. So hopefully I can get there one day. But in the meantime, it's been a journey, and that journey has made me better. And the reason why these things look is because I've gone on the journey. I didn't just wake up one day and do this. It was because I had to put in a lot of work and make a lot of sacrifice.
Well, I still dream when it comes to this stuff, and I'm older, sure, but I still very much have faith that I'm going to end up in this space somehow, and working with you has been a positive, rewarding, and teaching experience through and through. So I thank you for that, and I will say that I don't think I've discussed this with you before, and in fact, I'm sure that I haven't, but I still occasionally play the lottery. I still play the Powerball and stuff because, look, my chances of winning by spending $1, $2 ticket are way better than yours by not buying any tickets. So if one day it happens... My
great-grandfather played the lottery to the day he died.
I'm telling you, you know what I mean? If it one day happened, I've thought about the conversation where I would call you and I'd be like, okay, Vin, when do you have time to get together for an in-person meal? And I will get myself out to LA or to Maine or wherever the fuck you are at the time, and we'll sit down for a meal, and I'll be like, okay, how serious are you about making like Womp Stomp the actual fucking, like, an actual production company? Because if I like won the big lottery and had enough seed money to try and make like an actual production company where we could support independent horror and independent filmmaking, make it your own, our own, whatever, you know, Blumhouse, A24, whatever we want to do. Like, that has gone through my mind numerous times. Every time I play, I hope that I'm able to do that, because that is the kind of stuff that I want to invest in the future, that allows for the kind of creativity I want to do. So if you ever get that call from me where I'm just out of the blue saying, "Hey Vin,
Cecil wants to get lunch. I'm about to get rich."
Yeah.
No, I honestly think that like a good core example of somebody who did it right would be the Raka Raka brothers with Talk to Me.
100%,
like
exactly.
$2.5 million. They did it in Australia.
Said no to a big studio in order to keep creative control. And
so
now,
so did Stallone. But no, they did. They made the movie that they wanted to make, and now they can do that. And they've said no to more people too, even more people since then. So it's sort of the thing. It's like if we can create our own nest egg, we can create our own projects. We don't have to rely on the studio and studio notes and that whole thing to drag things down. We can stay independent and we can do this. I mean, there's a way that crowdfunding even takes off even further. I mean, if some YouTube reviewers can raise multi-million dollars for films that you still have to go in for reshoots. I mean, somebody, they raised $2 million to make their directorial debut, and they still need to raise more money to go and do reshoots. Hey, listen, we did it for a lot less, and did all these things. So just saying, like, if there's people on YouTube to invest in, it may be the people who are actually making films and not the people who just are armchair quarterbacks talking about film and sort of like never really proving it with their actual sort of like work that they show. I think it's about time that the world start rewarding people for actually doing things well. And listen, if I need to keep getting better, I'm not saying I'm Steven Spielberg by any means, but like I at least hope that I show promise that if you gave me a budget and you gave me a full-fledged production with my imagination and knowing how all these tools work, that like the things we do on Never Hike Alone wouldn't even compare. We would start doing some fun stuff. I mean, I think my dream job one day, if I don't make it as some like big thing, is like I at least just want to be a really good second unit action director. Send me out there with the military, send me out there with the helicopter, send me out there with the race cars, with the monster trucks, and we're going to create some stuff that like really just kind of flips your lid. But at the same time, I love storytelling and motion and comedy and all these things too. So I definitely want to do it all. But I definitely have I definitely want to go out there and blow some shit up. I definitely got a little Michael Bay in me. That's for sure.
I'm definitely more on the smaller budget horror side of things. Like I can make a crazy horror movie, but I would probably stick with the horror genre. I do have designs on superheroes down the line just because I've been such a big fan forever. My ultimate goal would be to make a Superman movie. Just because I love that character so much, and no one is fucking.
Oh yeah,
Superman 1975 was pretty close, yeah. But
I loved that movie.
I'm hoping it was pretty close. It was pretty close, but it's just not representative of Superman nowadays. So I'm hoping that Legacy, done by James Gunn, is gonna finally be like the Superman. He's talking about For All Seasons being a big inspiration. He just tweeted about it recently, and that's one of the best by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And I love that Superman story. It's a wonderful 4-issue storyline, and then also bookended by All-Star Superman, which is another phenomenal 12-issue story written by Grant Morrison. But I think it's Grant Morrison, but nonetheless, like I'm hoping that he finally fucking gets what Superman is supposed to be in today's day and age, and that we're gonna do it right. But I have a really great, I tell you what, I have a really fantastic Batman Clayface story that would be fucking cool. You know what I mean? If I could ever get my hands on like a Matt Reeves level Batman story, but featuring Clayface, like that shit.
Well, they might do
really
that
fun.
now, right?
I know. I've heard that too.
That'd be kind of cool. I wonder. That's going to be really weird with that world. You know what I mean? Like it taking it to that level that somebody would be made of clay. But that's going to be interesting.
That's the thing. Like that's what excites me, is that they're blending two worlds that feel like they shouldn't go together, like the true detective side of Batman and the more fantastical side of Batman. There has to be that blending of the in between, and like Clayface allows you to keep it like in a grounded, dark, scary place while still having fantastical elements, right? It's just a giant dude.
Unless you have Clayface from the Harley Quinn show.
Well, Play face, you mean?
Play face. No, I mean, I guess he is an actor. That was the whole thing.
Yeah, I love the Harley Quinn show, by the way.
I do.
And
it's
did
so
you know
funny.
that
And I hate Harley Quinn, but I love that show.
Well, they're doing a Kite Man spin-off series.
I know.
I'm so excited about that.
Actually, I've known about that for a while. I know somebody who's working on it.
Oh, really? Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, dude, I love that pocket of the DC universe just because they go places that the DC universe has never gone in live action or animation. On page, sure. Like, you know, anyway, there's a lot of different adult themed DC stories that just haven't been done, but it's so fun to see literally them kill people like Professor Pig and stuff like that, and Nightwing. You know what I mean? Like, it's gotten crazy, and they're just like, fuck it, we're just doing what we want. But yeah, so anyway, sidetrack nonetheless. All of this to say that, you know, proving ourselves via fan films hopefully is going to lead to something more. And
I hope at least in the initial phase, it's going to lead to people supporting our original work.
Right.
So when we step into original, we step into the crowd, you know, the crowdfunding base. If we don't have the support from the studios, or we don't have support from financiers, that we can come to the fans and be like, hey, we need to make, this is just a film that's going to go on YouTube for free. This is going to go into the theaters. Now your name's going into the theater, but we need to raise serious cash. We need to raise 300. We need to raise 400. We need to raise 500. I mean, obviously the people have the ability to raise millions on these platforms. Mm-hmm. With millions of dollars, we could do some damage.
Oh my God!
And there's a couple films, you know, there's a couple stories in our slot that I think that could really fit that budget, and I think do really, really well on the indie circuit, going out to the right types of festivals, mm-hmm. and then getting picked up for distribution and streaming, and, you know, being on, you know, the Shutters and you know, things like that out of the world. I think that's a very attainable goal. Mm-hmm. It's just getting the funding for it. Right. And, you know, I know that people wanted to see Jason back. I wanted to see Jason back. I can't wait to have Jason back. He's back in less than a month. And then we can see what the studios do next year with Crystal Lake. Yeah. But I want to move on to some original stuff, and I got some work to do, and I'm looking forward to it. I think afterwards I'm looking forward to the time off to explore those characters and explore those stories, because Never Hike Alone has really been like a creative block for me in a lot of different ways, because I've had to think about so many things in the project that I haven't had like the free sort of thing to think about something else, because I'm so paranoid about losing focus on Never Hike Alone. Right. So now that I've already felt it, like I've already started writing pages, things have started flowing out of me again. Like, it's been really, really nice. From a creative standpoint of like not feeling the burden of Never Hike Alone 2 not being told yet. Mm-hmm. So now that it's been told and it's going to come out, I kind of feel like I'm ready to tell more stories, which is really great. I feel that energy. So I do feel ready. And you know, but in the meantime, like, my focus is Never Hike Alone 2. Obviously we got a month left or less to get this done. And yeah, I'm just really excited for it to all get done, get put in the can, and you know, show it to people.
Well, I'm excited for it too, man. I mean, you know, I know the work that you achieve when you stick your mind to it, and that level has not dipped since we started seeing your work. And I'm very excited to see what you've been able to accomplish with a full-length version of one of your stories. And I'm excited to what that might lead to in the future for you, and what DNN might lead to in the future for all of us. And because again, I'm excited to let people know what might be going on if it all follows through in October and everything. So,
yeah, well, we got a little bit to go before that happens, but we're getting there.
Yep, indeed. So yeah, guys, the links to Vin's Instagram and YouTube channel are in the description box down below, as well as the link to the Never Hike Alone 2 Indiegogo campaign. If you want to jump on there, still get your name in the credits for the next 5 days. You have that amount of time. The link to the Dylan's New Nightmare campaign is down there too. If you want to buy a Blu-ray from each, feel free. But of course, you know, make sure you're supporting the project however you can, whether it's just by sharing or just by clicking and watching our films over and over again. We appreciate any of the support that you guys can bestow upon us. So thank you very much, and thank you, Vin, for taking the time to jump on with me here.
Hey, thanks for putting this together, because it's good that we can get more word out. It's good to see you.
Absolutely, and I'll I'll make sure that we're connected with Tyler Adams for possible work going forward. And thank you.
Yeah, Tyler, just email me, wompstompfilms@gmail.com.
There you go. And thank you to everyone that's been watching and interacting in the chat. Davey Deathray, Mitch the Ripper, Joey Lehman, Tyler Adams, of course, as I said, Dice Rollin. Thank you to everyone for joining and having some fun with us. Thank you to all of our patrons as well for supporting the channel the way that you do. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird. That's been Vince DiSanti. And remember, guys,